Hey, what's going on, everybody? How are you doing? Hello, one and all. Hope you guys are doing good, and welcome to take 2 of Crew-10 launch. We are, well, we're gonna wait and see, and oh, that's a picture-in-picture. We're gonna wait and see, and hope for the best that we do get another. Well, hopefully for the first time here, a successful Crew-10 launch. If you guys were here earlier this week. They did in fact scrub due to a ground support side equipment issue from the hydraulic systems on the grapple arms that are basically at the top of the transporter erector. Seems to be fixed, and we are now moving through the count here. We are 51 minutes from launch. Very soon, within like the next, well, within the next basically 7 minutes or so, we should get the go no go for propellant loading. So that should be then the last big ticket hold item that we have to make sure that we start propellant loads. And then that's basically where we got fouled up before, is that they could not fix the hydraulic issue on the ground side before this key go no go poll for propellant loading. So propellant loading typically begins around T-minus 38 minutes, and they do this go no go poll, basically polling the entire mission control team to make sure everything is good and sufficient and in a good state for. Oh, look, nice! You can see Coast Guard out there in the no-go zone. Definitely want to stay no wayward boats, chat. We do not want any boats to enter the range, because then that means they basically have to scrub if that occurs. Well, they might not, depending on how quickly they can get a boat out of the area, but it has happened in the past, so they've had to scrub it because of wayward boats. But yeah, it should be in about 6 minutes or so. They go through and poll the entire mission control team for whether or not everything is in a good state to begin propellant loading, and then propellant loading begins at T-minus 38 minutes. That is where we are in the countdown, chat. Let's go ahead and listen in to what they're saying, and we'll go from there.
Ensuring that the vehicle is ready for day of launch in a safe flight for the crew to the ISS.
And Mike, last question for you. You know, how do you feel just being a part of NASA's commercial crew?
Yeah. Filler questions here during the broadcast. But yeah, so for this particular Crew-10 mission, we have a lot of good stuff in the pipeline. This is going to be booster 1090. This is the second flight of this particular booster. It's an 85-day turnaround. So it basically last flew, I think, in December of 2024. And that flight was, I believe, a mission. Oh gosh, what was the name? It was M-Power. It was like O3B M-Power, number 7 and 8, which was a mission back in December of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So this will be the overall second flight for this particular booster, but for the Dragon capsule itself, it's the 4th flight. It's already been on a number of flights. It's already like acquired over 500 days of orbital operations. This is C210, Crew Dragon C210 Endurance is the name of this particular capsule. Like I said, it's flown for over like 500, I think it's like 525 days in orbit, if I'm not mistaken. And this is coming off of a 565-day turnaround. So its last mission concluded back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. No way a stream I can watch. No way a stream I can watch. Gotcha. I thought you were saying you can't watch me, but hey, Crack, how are you doing? So yeah, this is all set to go and launch here in about 48 minutes. That's around 5:07 p.m. Eastern, or no, I'm sorry, Mountain Time, my time. Yeah, if this all goes through, we will be carrying 4 astronauts as part of Crew Expedition 73 to the International Space Station. They're expecting, I believe, a 13-hour flight, unless something has changed, about a 13-hour flight to the ISS. And remember, this is Crew-10 that will actually relieve Crew-9. And if you know anything about Crew-9 and what's happened previously, is that they're going to relieve the 2 astronauts, Butch and Sonny, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, to basically be able to come home, because they were unfortunately, I don't want to say stranded. I think that is totally not an it's totally just a news clickbait sort of title to say that the astronauts are stranded up there. For a moment, they actually were stranded up there because technically they didn't have a return capsule. But no, they are totally fine. They just had to extend their stay. I think that is the proper way to say it. They had to extend their stay because of the Starliner capsule having its issues, which brought them up there. So their original, like, 1 to 2 week mission turned into an 8-month mission. Which is definitely not great for the Starliner capsule, but they were able to basically slot in. NASA did some rearranging of the astronaut scheduling, and they were able to basically slot in for Expedition 72 as well. So this will be Expedition 73, if I'm not mistaken, heading up for about a 6-month stay on board the ISS. Didn't it try to launch the other day? Yes, it tried to launch. I believe it was Wednesday. It's all kind of, this whole week is kind of a blur to me. I think it last tried to launch on Wednesday, and they had to scrub because they had a ground support issue with the hydraulics. So if you actually look up here, these arms, these little gripper arms at the very top of the transporter rector that go around the second stage, they open, right, during launch or right before launch. They were having issues with that system, the hydraulics for that. And so they had to scrub because they couldn't fix the issue before right about now, which is the go, no-go poll for prop load. So let's listen into the stream and see what they're saying.
They are on board Dragon, waiting to
Are they the only two on station? No, no, they are not. Crew-9 is up there. Crew-9, instead of sending 4, sent 2 astronauts to provide room for Butch and Sunny to come back on that Dragon capsule. So there's 4 of like NASA astronauts, and then I think 2 Roscosmos astronauts at the moment.
Surrounding our launch pad, as well as the air and sea space along the flight corridor.
And as you can see in your on the left-hand corner of your screen, the weather is looking great for today's launch.
Yeah, should be a good launch overall.
In the right direction, and we currently have less than a 5% chance of violation.
Nice.
Target liftoff.
So a 95% chance of launch here, basically due to weather. So real quick before we hear about the go no go poll, the 4 astronauts that are going up here on this Crew Dragon are Anne McClain. You see her at the sort of like right side of the middle seat there. Anne McClain experience. This is her 2nd mission. She already has like 2 spacewalks under her belt. And then to the left of her in the middle there is Nicole Ayers, also a NASA astronaut. I believe this is her 1st mission, and she is going to be the pilot for this mission. Then we have
both control rooms go into lockdown and remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they'll approve boarding the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold, hold, hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off, relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew for movement.
Crew X arm retraction starting.
All right, so we've already made it beyond what we did last this past Wednesday. They are now retracting the crew access arm.
A briefing with the crew. Sounds like everything is go for launch, and we're going to start seeing that crew access arm moving away from the vehicle.
So this right here will start to slowly retract. It'll start swinging outward behind the Dragon capsule and booster.
Around the clock in mission control here in Hawthorne, mission control in Houston as well.
They're vacationing there, the astronauts on the ISS, Butch and Sunny, yeah. Oh wow, that actually goes faster than I anticipated. Here I was kind of expecting a very kind of like slow movement. No, I was just like, here we go.
And there you're seeing some great shots of the crew access arm pulling away from Dragon.
Awesome. 43 minutes from flight here.
Clear skies, as far as the eye can see. Perfect weather for today's launch.
Getting exciting over here.
So yeah, those hydraulic systems that we see right here in the background, those are what caused the scrub on Wednesday. Those like pincer arms that go around the second stage for kind of maintaining, structural rigidity in the entire stack while it's being motioned into place and whatnot.
Yeah, weather looks amazing over there.
Crew access
at
arm
pad
is continuing to
39A.
retract.
You can see that crew access arm still moving. It'll move all the way to that 90 degrees away from the vehicle.
Crew access arm retraction complete.
And there
There
we
we
just
go.
heard confirmation that the crew access arm has been fully retracted. That process is now complete. Again, the next step in our process leading up to today's launch at 7:03 p.m. Eastern, 4:03 p.m. Pacific will be the propellant loading, and that should be getting underway here shortly. In the meantime, let's go ahead and check back in with Daryl at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
All right, thank you very much,
Nice.
ladies. Back here with...
So yeah, as I was saying with the crew, the last two that I couldn't get to before they went through the countdown net, we have Takuya Onishi, which is a JAXA, Japanese Space Agency astronaut, and then we also have Kirill Peskov from Roscosmos. I believe Takuya Onishi, I think this is his second mission, and then Kirill Peskov, I believe, is the mission specialist for this, and he had already under... this is his first spaceflight mission as well to the International Space Station and spaceflight in general as well. So yeah, good looking crew, 2 veterans and 2 greenhorns, if you will. So as you can see over in the cockpit here, right here is Kirill Peskov. That right there in the middle to the right of him is Nicole Iyer. To the right of her is the commander of the mission, Anna McLean, and then to the right of Anna McLean in the other sort of like lower seat is Takuya Onishi. So yeah, good looking crew. We are 41 minutes out. The next thing in our countdown should be whether or not we are actually going to start propellant loading. That should happen at around T-minus 38 to 35 minutes, somewhere around in there, and then the vehicle will start loading itself with propellant. Hey, what's up, Supersonic? How are you? Got a little dead air on the countdown net and on the live stream. So as I said before, this trajectory for the flight profile should be a basically standard descent profile
milestones early at this point, which is a good thing
for the International Space Station rendezvous. I have a picture of basically what you should be able to see. Launch escape system is verified armed. That means that they are basically now able to go through with propellant. And if you see this picture right here, if you're on the East Coast or, you know, mid-East Coast, a few hundred miles in, you should be able to see this launch because it's going northeast here, up the coast here. What's up, Graham? How are you? Posture check, I got you.
Hear it being armed, they get this sort of loud thump that they hear, and of course that launch escape system, it consists of 8 Super Draco thrusters. It's only used for an abort in this case.
All right, up next we have fuel loading.
Before the loading of the fuel.
So that should be at around 38 to 35 minutes. Hey, what's up, Cobra Bubbles?
As you hear Commander Ann McLean, get these systems ready. Your friend, your fellow classmate, getting ready to go.
Yeah, I think things are getting very real right now. It's really interesting.
NASA's Twitch chat is absolute chaos. Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Sometimes you actually have to remind yourself that it's actually
they can keep that over there
because you have been through this whole series of readiness and all of these checks.
Yeah, we're green so far, indeed.
Physical actions.
We already seem to had a good go no-go poll for propellant loading, and that's when they went through the crew access arm retract that we saw. So the next thing should be the start of propellant load. And from there, they said the range is green. It's only a 5% chance probability of violation for launch. So we have a 95% chance go for weather. So it's pretty much looking good unless some wayward boat or plane happens, which, you know, knock on wood, right?
And for these 3 astronauts and cosmonaut, I'm sure it's a little bit different for Ann and Tak, who have gone through a launch before. Totally new.
Control systems. Any good books for that? The one I really like is called Modern Control Engineering by Ogata. O-G-A-T-A. That was my textbook for modern controls. I think it's actually really good. Of course, it's, you know, technical, but if you really want to learn about control systems, that's a good place to start. It does state space, it does PIDs, you know, it does even some optimal control, if I'm not mistaken.
The sky will become lit up as the sun dances with the exhaust.
Another really good one that's more oriented towards space is Modern Spacecraft Dynamics and Control by Kaplan. Well, it's a Kaplan book. Kaplan's like the publisher. So I'd go with those two. Either Modern Control Engineering, which is kind of more general, by Ogata, or if you're looking more for specific spacecraft, Modern Spacecraft Dynamics and Control by a Kaplan series.
I remember very well Nick Hague and Alexei Ovchinin's abort on the Soyuz that happened.
What caused
in
this current extra
2018.
time? What extra time?
I was in training at the time in Star City, and that abort happened when they
No,
were
it wasn't
about 30
postponed so
miles
far
up, and
today.
they ended
It
up
was
going up to
postponed
about 50
from
miles.
Wednesday. Wednesday it scrubbed due to a ground support issue. But to my knowledge, it hasn't postponed today yet. So
Search and rescue teams were there to pull them out in about 10 minutes, and a really stressful day, of course, for everybody.
And thankfully venting for propellant load.
all right, venting for propellant load. Basically, they're opening up the valves so that way, as they pour the cryogenic liquid oxygen in there, that's going to be constantly boiling off until the tank structures like cool down to where the LOX doesn't just immediately flash into gas. They open up the vents to allow that gaseous oxygen to escape.
Right back. And fortunately, everything went well, and he was able to return to the ISS, and he's up there now.
Yeah, he's up there right now waiting for this mission to join him. I know that he's very much looking forward to giving Anne and her crew a big high five, especially for those 8-ball classmates, but really for everybody on board. We joke in our class that, Nick launched 2.5 times so far for his 2 missions to space, but he's got a little bit of extra experience.
We have learned so much.
State space control, yeah.
Jessica,
Yeah, it's all about linearizing and stuff like that.
Talking about your experiences in space flight.
Linearizing the equations of motion
Also,
around
the
a certain
audience
point for your
appreciates it
vehicle,
as
and
they
then
continue to ask questions on NASA's social media channels, #AskNASA, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and X. Dolores Kiefer asks now, can the ground crew talk to the astronauts during fueling?
Yeah, they can. We just heard a call go. And
can you see this from
those
Jacksonville?
comments are
Yes,
open.
you can
know,
see
of
this
course,
from
we can talk to the
Jacksonville.
crew if in case of any
So
type
this
of
should
emergency or any
be
type of information that they need. We
roughly
have
the cone that you can see it in, and if you're in Jacksonville, you have like a 95% chance of seeing it in the green here. I don't know when you should be able to see it. It'll probably be like 20-30 seconds into flight, maybe probably like 20. But yeah, from Jacksonville, you should see this no problem. It's going northeast, so
Feel it. Just a few seconds now before we start propellant load for the Falcon 9 rocket.
how do they keep the propellant supercooled in a liquid state? Usually it's under pressure and under
The launch
active
auto sequence has started.
under active thermal control systems. Usually they
Here we
have
go.
like a cycler system that is able to transfer
Tanks are
heat,
being
and it's
filled.
actively cooling the system like constantly to keep it at that.
Prop load is
But also
underway.
pressure helps,
Very
right? If you keep
dynamic
something
time
at pressure,
for the astronauts
it remains a liquid as well.
the ground crews.
You either need pressure or supercooled temperature.
For this countdown today, we got a little further and have gone further than our attempt on Wednesday, which stopped at T-minus 43 minutes. We are now T-minus 34 minutes, and everything is looking good.
Yep.
The vehicle is go, spacecraft is go, ground teams are go.
So what's really cool about this mission, like I said, not only is it there to relieve Expedition 72 crew members for Crew-9 and the Boeing crew flight test, Butch and Sunny, but this is actually going to also participate in multiple cargo and astronaut handover missions. They're going to have another Soyuz rotation, I think, in April, unless that slips. They have Axiom mission, Axiom 4. So the private company Axiom is going to be sending up another set of astronauts to the ISS on board Crew Dragon C-213. And then we also have a Soyuz MS-26 departure that will be the Roscosmos astronauts that are up there now are going to be returning home. So they actually have quite a number of logistics happening while they're up there as well, just from like a human spaceflight orientation. I see this in day? Yeah, you should definitely be able to see it.
Hawthorne, California, and join our commentators there.
Yeah, exactly, Warlock. Yeah, just the cycle
We
through
are
pressure
at
and
T-minus
temperature.
33 minutes from launch and getting closer and closer to launching Crew-10 into space. After the long-duration mission is complete, Crew-10 will be the first NASA commercial crew mission to target a return splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. NASA and SpaceX have been working together toward certification and readiness for Dragon recoveries on the West Coast. Since 2019, Dragon recoveries have primarily occurred off the coast of Florida. SpaceX is moving Dragon recovery operations to off the coast of California.
They're adding recovery
to allow
options for
Dragon
California.
to complete its deorbit before safely jettisoning the trunk over the Pacific Ocean.
That's cool.
Comparable to the first 21 Dragon missions. Crew splashdown locations are near Los Angeles, Oceanside, and San
Hey, Dr.
Diego.
Longballs.
The recovery vessel Shannon will be stationed in Long
Will you be
Beach,
able to see
California,
Starship
support
launches
the
from Jacksonville? Yeah, no problem. I think they're starting Starship launches from Cape in like June of this year, depending on how their progress goes from their last explosions, right? But yeah, oh yeah, you'll be able to see Starship from Jacksonville, no problem. That thing is like a 40-story building going into space. You're not going to have a problem seeing that from Jacksonville.
Once they get docked to the space station, will of course still splash down off the coast of Florida in a few days. But back to today's mission, let's go ahead and learn more from the astronauts flying today.
So that was important. So Crew-9, right, the Dragon capsule that's up there now, will actually be coming back and landing off the coast of Florida. So they're not going to be taking advantage of that California recovery operations for this particular mission. I'm going to mute this just because, you know, YouTube can be so finicky with music that's played. You know, usually SpaceX and NASA are pretty good about using only public domain stuff, but unfortunately I don't want to necessarily play it since there was music in the background. So but what you're seeing here is some footage that they've already taken of their astronaut training process. So there in the middle is Kirill Peskov, the Roscosmos astronaut. He's the mission specialist for this particular mission. As part of Crew Expedition 73, there's Nicole Ayer, who is the pilot for the mission. That's her. So both of them are greenhorns. This is going to be their first space flight. And then there is Takuya Onishi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is actually his second flight, and he's also another mission specialist. And then finally, we have Anna McClain, who was actually at the beginning of this run through. And Anna McClain this is her second mission, and she is the commander of this particular mission. So yeah, a good looking crew after already going through their training program. They're going to be up there, like I said, for about 6 months, returning home in early fall of this year, unless, you know, other logistic things keep that from happening. We're inside of T-minus 30 minutes. The next big, I guess, step within the process here, we have another 15 minutes or so until second stage LOX load begins. So basically at around T-minus 35 minutes, the RP-1 or rocket grade kerosene loading begins for, I believe, the first and second stage. And then the first stage also simultaneously loads liquid oxygen. And then at T-minus 16 minutes, the second stage will start loading liquid oxygen. And then after that, the next big one is going to be chill down of the Falcon 9 first stage vacuum engines, not vacuum engines, Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. And that happens at around T-minus 7 minutes. So yeah, we still got quite a bit of time here throughout this countdown, but yeah, like I said, it's just a matter of waiting. We've already made it past the problems that we saw Wednesday. And so it's looking like it will launch.
Astronaut Nicole Ayers. She was selected as a NASA astronaut in 2021.
Hey, Miss Adventures, how are you? Anna's badass, yeah. She was a helicopter pilot.
And is a major in the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
This is
so this woman right here, Nicole Ayers, I'm pretty sure flew F-22 Raptors, which is amazing.
Takuya Onishi.
She's part of the United States Air Force, so.
Astronaut, serving as a mission specialist. Today's flight will mark Onishi's second trip to the space station. He was selected as an astronaut by Japan.
I mean, all of them are badass. To be an astronaut, they're inherently badass, Chad. So, why are their boots so tall? Function or fashion? I'd like to think it's function over fashion, Jen. But honestly, when it comes to SpaceX, I don't know. But their boots are so tall in order to try and provide sufficient room for basically having their entire system be what would you call it? Airtight. Their entire suit is pressurized, right? So even though it looks like there's gaps in their suit and stuff, it's supposed to be completely airtight and pressurized. So that way, if, God forbid, the Crew Dragon capsule that they're riding in depressurizes and they lose all of their atmosphere, they're actually still hooked in through a hose to the life support system and have a long time of actual air supply, despite the inside environment being a vacuum. So the boots and how everything is developed there, I can only imagine it's part of manufacturing. Some of it probably is design oriented, but I'm sure it all serves a function.
That must be comforting to all of them.
I think so, and I think it has brought them closer together as a crew. They can almost read
How will
each
they
other's
ship
minds.
Booster
They say
and the ship
sometimes,
to the
you know,
Cape?
they
Well,
don't even
Andy,
need words,
they're
and they
actually
have
going to
this
start
shared sense of
manufacturing
shared
them
language. It makes them
at
very
Cape Canaveral.
synchronous, cohesive.
SpaceX, I know we haven't seen it very much like we have from Starbase, but SpaceX has been developing a lot of infrastructure down at Cape Canaveral, specifically for building, like manufacturing, assembling, stacking, launching, and landing boosters and super heavies. So no, they'll build them there. They don't have to ship them anywhere.
Connected to sensors throughout my body, and they are
Hey, there you go,
collecting
Andy.
real-time
Nice.
data on my heart rate,
I'll take both as an answer.
oxygen
Yeah,
saturation,
there you
my
go.
respiratory rate. Imagine the day where you go see your doctor because you're concerned about your heart health, and they give you these sensors to wear, and they get this massive, comprehensive look at your cardiovascular
Their patch
health
is so
over
cool,
multiple
chat.
days doing multiple
Have you guys seen the
activities.
patch that they wear? So the patch for this particular mission, I have it somewhere saved.
That could help
There it
be
is.
used here on Earth with those people who suffer from
Look at that
arthritis
patch.
in their knees.
They got the iconic dragon symbol for Crew Dragon, ISS, each of their names. Pretty good. It's a good looking
Acting administrator since
good-looking
January,
patch
and
for
of
this
course, before
particular
that,
mission.
Center director here at Kennedy since 2021. And how does it feel to be back here to watch another Crew launch?
Oh my God, I can't, Megan, tell you how excited I am to be here. And I was here the whole week. You know, we had unfortunately had the scrub on Wednesday, but I cannot.
Yep, there's Janet
explain the
Petro,
feeling
acting
of coming
NASA
back
administrator
home.
until
You know, I
hopefully
love the
Jared
center,
Isaacman
I
gets
love this
confirmed.
workforce, I love the mission.
I think
that
his
we
confirmation
have,
is supposed to
here
happen
at
this
the
week,
center,
or
so
at least
it's
his
very
hearing is,
exciting.
rather.
In DC, it's not my normal job jar down here at the Kennedy
Oh, nice,
Space
Graham.
Center, being center director, where I had the workforce and the mission. So I'm super excited to be back here. And
There you
be
go,
able to
Terrace.
witness this
Yes.
launch later tonight.
Big brain.
Yes, absolutely.
Big
Launch
brain.
is going to happen here shortly. And I know we've been talking about this a lot in the broadcast, that every single member of Crew-10 is a pilonaut. Yes, actually.
A pilonaut, yeah. A pilot astronaut.
Are you? Did you get to talk to the crew?
When I grow up, I want to be a
I
pilonaut.
absolutely did.
How about you,
so
Chat?
I got to see them a couple times. So when they landed at the landing facility here, I got to see them and greet them. And that's where
What a
they
great
gave me
shot.
this hat,
That's
which is so
amazing.
cool. I've never gotten a present from a
Man,
crew,
Falcon 9
before, so
and the
Crew
Dragon
10,
capsule are
hats off
very
to them,
aesthetic
for giving me, and they
when they're
did
together
sign
like
it.
this.
And then on Tuesday, we got to go what's called Behind the Glass tour and talk to them. They're behind a glass because they're in quarantine, and we got to talk to them and ask them questions and talk to them and just see how they were doing. And so that's pretty special. So I got to talk to all of them. All of
Yeah,
those
they've been in
pilots
quarantine
there,
for a
and
while.
They are super excited, ready to go.
Yeah, and speaking of excited, we have NASA astronauts Sunny Williams, Butch Wilmore, Nick Hague, plus Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. They're going to come back shortly after Crew-10 arrives on station. During a live press conference from station recently, Butch and Sunny said they're going to miss space.
Of course they are.
Absolutely, because you got to think
How could you
about
not
the
miss space?
astronauts. And by the way, last week from Johnson Space Center's Mission Control, I did get to talk to Butch.
Oh,
Sunny,
nice, Graham.
Nick,
I think the
and,
same for Crew
Lily
Dragon, if I'm not
Dom
mistaken.
headed there, so I got to talk to them as well.
Their
But
suits
you gotta
certainly are.
figure
I was even thinking the
they,
seats were.
to be selected and trained, and the passion that they have to go to space. For them, it's got to be, this is what they do for a living. This is what they're going to do. And in fact, I would bet they might have some mixed emotions for leaving, because every time you get to go to space, which is what all astronauts want to do, you never know. It might be your last time time because you might not be selected for another mission or whatever.
That's
So
true.
I bet they have mixed emotions leaving their colleagues up there at the space station. I'm sure they're anxious to get home and put their feet on Earth and spend time with their family, but I think that they have enjoyed their time in space. You know, when I said behind the glass to Butch and Sunny a while ago.
Maybe, Graham. I don't know,
I asked
honestly.
them, and they had told me that
I mean,
they
with how,
hope they
well,
get to
maybe because
stay
the ISS
a little bit longer than 8 days
being
in
suspended,
space.
it'll be
That was
interesting to
behind the
see.
glass. Now, I don't know if they
You know, that's something we haven't really talked about, right? Currently, the ISS is expected to be retired sometime around 2028, right? So with the ISS no longer being a thing, of course, there's not going to be a destination in low Earth orbit for astronauts to go to. Now, in a perfect world, by that time, we would already be starting to do more regular lunar missions. Of course, that remains to be seen. But at the very least, VAST and Axiom should be developing their first space station modules and sending those into low Earth orbit. So, you know, maybe it won't be quite as common for NASA astronauts. I don't know. Maybe, though. I guess it just depends on how big NASA sees a priority being in low Earth orbital operations for astronauts, for sending crew. Because if anything, then at least there will be more need for like commercial astronauts. If that's going to be a thing, it'll just be interesting to see how the overall industry manages that.
Crewed mission around the moon in over 50 years. Engineers finished stacking the twin solid rocket boosters for Artemis 2. These 177-foot tall boosters will provide most of the 8.8 million pounds of thrust
Artemis
needed to
2,
launch
baby.
4 astronauts on a 10-day lunar journey.
Yeah. Artemis 2 is being stacked. We already have the core stage there. The inner stage is there. The second stage is there. I don't know if Orion capsule is technically there and ready yet. But yeah, it'll be sending the first astronauts to the moon since Apollo, which is wild.
Astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Cook, along with Canadian astronaut
Hey,
Jeremy Hansen, on a mission around the moon.
When is that
here's
supposed to
Jeremy
launch?
now,
A year from
a little
now.
More about that.
A year from now.
Hey everyone, I'm Canadian Space Agency astronaut Colonel Jeremy Hansen, mission specialist for the Artemis 2 mission. I'm here at the Johnson Space Center here in Houston, Texas, where we normally do most of our training. But every once in a while, we like to change it up a bit. Reed, Victor, Christine, and I recently spent several days in Iceland trading in our spacesuits for hiking gear to study its geology and surroundings. Why Iceland? Well, as you can see, it has a similar landscape and terrain to the moon, with various volcanic rocks like basalts and breccias, and has limited to no vegetation.
Good old astronaut training.
The Nordic island has been a lunar...
Right? Find like environments as much as you can that prepare you for lunar surface operations. I mean, that's what Apollo did. Apollo created like a lot of different... what would you call it, like simulated terrain. They did a lot of like survival training where literally the astronauts went into the desert and had to like survive and come back. All of that to prepare them for anything and everything that they could possibly need while going to the moon, which is actually pretty crazy. I definitely recommend a book about John Young, who kind of talks in detail about all of that stuff. But yeah, so they're kind of doing the same thing here as well.
QR code on your screen right now, or visit nasa.gov/Artemis-Roman numeral 2 or II. You don't have to worry about getting updates there, though, because, Jessica, you are friends and former classmates with both Victor
All right,
Glover
look at
and
that
Christine Cook.
vent down.
That's right. They are my astronaut classmates, like brothers and sisters, and it has been so exciting to see this.
That
Artemis
vent down
journey.
should be in
I
prep
was here for the Artemis
for
1 launch, and that just made it all so
box
real.
loading
We
of
saw
the second
hardware, we saw the
stage.
vehicle,
First
we saw
stage
the
is
launch, and
still
we
filling
knew
up.
that the next time that vehicle launched, it would be with my friends and colleagues on board. So it was an incredibly exciting moment for all of us.
Yeah, that's fair, Graham.
That launch coming in February of 2025, currently scheduled on the calendar. Let's go back now to SpaceX in Hawthorne, California.
Jessie. Not Jessica, Jessie. Jessica's somebody else.
As we continue to count down, let's take a closer look at the vehicles that will be taking Crew-10 to the International Space Station today. Falcon 9 is a two-stage rocket developed and manufactured by SpaceX, known for its safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to space. It's also the first orbital-class rocket capable of reflight. And sitting at the top of Falcon 9, Dragon and its trunk stand over 26 feet tall. There are 2 windows on the spacecraft, plus 1 underneath the nose cone. The nose cone opens shortly after launch to expose the forward bulkhead thrusters and docking mechanism that will connect with the space station. Dragon's trunk holds solar cells, which power Dragon while it's in free flight, and the trunk can also carry unpressurized cargo. Now, Dragon has played a significant role in advancing our future in space by safely transporting crew to and from the space station. There are currently 4 Dragon spacecraft supporting human spaceflight missions that have docked to the station. There you can see them on your screen. That is Endeavour, Resilience, Endurance, and Freedom. Now, designed to be the safest spacecraft ever flown, Dragon is capable of carrying up to 7 passengers.
You saw the eclipse last night?
Earth
Yeah.
orbit and beyond.
Tell me about it, right?
Dragon has 16 Draco thrusters that can be used in space to help navigate the spacecraft to its destination, each providing 90 pounds of force. That doesn't include the 8 Super Draco thrusters used for an abort, which are no longer active once the crew is in orbit. Dragon has flown 49 times with 15 human spaceflight missions since 2020.
That's what
when Dragon
happened at the
became
Cape last night over the Dragon capsule
to the International Space Station. In that time,
there's
Dragon
also
has
this,
flown
by the
over
way.
1,000 experiments to space and 50.
What you're seeing here is the Firefly Blue Ghost lander looking back at Earth and seeing the eclipse from the moon of Earth moving in front of the sun, which is just mind-blowing. Yeah, they saw the diamond ring with the eclipse from the moon, which is pretty crazy.
Another option that we have is the Skywalker hardware, which supports extravehicular activities as the crew used during the Polaris Dawn mission. Now, continuing down the vehicle, we do have the second stage. The second stage is powered by
when was
a
they
single
start
Merlin
building
vacuum
Starship?
engine,
I wouldn't say they already
engine,
are, Andy,
which is
but I don't
optimized
know.
to perform in the vacuum of space.
I've seen barrel
After
segments
stage
there.
separation, the MVAC will ignite and carry Dragon to its target orbit. Now, the Falcon 9's first and second stages are connected by the black inner stage, which houses the MVAC engine and the system that decouples the 2 stages during stage separation. And below that is the first stage.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
There we go. I was just about to say, around the 16-minute mark, we should hear stage 2 LOX load starting. So now the second stage is going to start filling up with liquid oxygen. You'll start seeing the vent occurring up here more.
Reporting that we continue to track no issues with Dragon or Falcon proceeding to launch.
Awesome. No issues so far, chat. Range is green. The vehicle is healthy. All systems on ground are healthy. And we have a 95% chance of good weather for launch.
These 9 Merlin engines provide the initial thrust to lift Falcon 9 off of the ground through the lower, thicker parts of the Earth's atmosphere. Now, each of these Merlin 1D engines delivers about 190,000 pounds of thrust at sea level, which gives Falcon 9 a combined 1.7 million pounds of thrust.
And after stage separation, stage 1 will return to Earth for recovery and reuse on a future mission using a combination of the Merlin sea-level engines and the 4 titanium grid fins located near the top of the booster, which will guide it during its re-entry and landing.
What were those things they showed for Crew Dragon add-ons? Yeah, so if you remember from Polaris Dawn, the forward bulkhead here at the very top of Dragon is interchangeable based on the mission. So like for Polaris Dawn, right, where they actually went outside and did EVA missions, they can actually create a hatch that can open up from the inside to allow astronauts to go outside the spacecraft. That forward bulkhead could either have a docking adapter for integrating to the ISS, it can have a basically a forward hatch for EVA missions, and then it can also have the big glass dome that they had for a previous mission as well. So it can basically be interchanged, that forward hatch segment.
And we are still looking good for an on-time launch today.
Hopefully later this year, Andy.
Dragon and Falcon 9 continue to be healthy. As we continue to listen and watch the countdown, our teams are preparing the vehicle for flight. Propellant loading of both RP1 and liquid oxygen began at T-minus 35 minutes. And we also heard the call a few minutes ago that the launch escape system is armed. The launch escape system is designed to propel Dragon away from Falcon 9 in the event of an emergency during launch. Now, the range, which is monitoring the keep-out zones among other key flight requirements, also continues to report no issues, and they are go to support today's launch.
And weather also continues to look good. You can see it there on your screen, clear skies. And we are still tracking a roughly less than 5% chance of violation at our target liftoff time of 7:03 p.m. Eastern, 4:03 p.m. Pacific. And as you heard earlier, we're continuing to be optimistic that we're going to maintain these
There's
good
that second
conditions
stage
into
vent I was
launch.
talking about.
And as a reminder, today we have an instantaneous launch window driven by our planned rendezvous point.
Since Dragon has its own engine, does that mean it's a third stage? Technically.
The station is orbiting the Earth
No,
at more than
PC Tech.
17,000 miles.
PC Tech coming in with 14 Kerbal years of support, saying, I appreciate your coverage, hope all is well. It is. I'm glad you're enjoying it too.
Relative to the orbiting laboratory so that they are in the same place in orbit at the same time. So precise liftoff time is crucial for hitting that rendezvous
I guess you could,
point.
Andy, yeah.
And at this point, if we
Yeah,
hear
I guess
a
you
hold
could.
for any reason, we would have to stand down and target our backup launch opportunity, which is Saturday, March 15th at 6:41 p.m. Eastern, 3:41.
Yeah, so what they're talking about here is don't forget that we have an instantaneous launch window. Essentially what that means is that right at T-minus 12 minutes and 47 seconds from now, if they don't go for launch, they are scrubbing for the day, because they're, sometimes launches, depending on the destination and how much flexibility you have in your actual orbital destination parameters, a window can be opened up, which means that you can launch anywhere between like the T-minus 0 point to like 20 minutes, an hour after that actual designated point in time. But today, going to the ISS, because we have a very precise thing that we have to rendezvous with, and we can't be too far away from it, we basically have to launch at the T-minus 0 mark. Otherwise, it is a no-go for the day. So that's what they were talking about here. If there's basically any problem from this point on, we're basically scrubbing for the day. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
To open the spacecraft's hatch for Crew-10 to float
I'm
into
glad,
the station
Kegger. Awesome.
and begin their stay. We anticipate that the hatch will be
When's the
opened
next
about
Falcon
an
Heavy?
hour and
I
a
do not
half
know, actually.
after the docking. When they enter the orbital outpost, Crew-10 will be greeted by the rest of their Expedition 72 crew and will come together for opening remarks. That's all from us here in Mission Control as the anticipation continues to build for launch in under 20 minutes. How's it looking on the Space Coast, Daryl?
We're looking great, Gary. Looking fantastic.
Oh, that is looking fantastic.
Weather, 95% go. You see the beautiful shot outside of the pad there, the rocket and the spacecraft. When it launches today, the crew aboard the ISS, the destination for today's launch, will be
Will
about
Elon's
260
antics hurt Starship?
miles over
I
top
hope
of
not.
the west coast of Australia. So
For me,
too
I think
far to
politics
see the
and
launch.
spaceflight can be completely separated.
It's nice to see a rocket go off when you're on the ISS, but unfortunately it won't be.
So
the
I
case
hope
this
not.
time.
Doesn't mean that people
It is a
won't
wonderful thing
try
to
and,
see when your
bring them
crewmates
together.
are heading towards you. I remember a photograph that Christina Cook took of my Soyuz approaching the station, and one of these incredible opportunities that you could see the outline of the trajectory of the Soyuz as it approached, and it's such a beautiful image. It's a shame they won't be able to see it, but they will be
All right,
so
we're now
excited.
within the 10-minute mark, essentially coming down to the T-minus 7. We should have Falcon 9 starting its engine chill. This means that they are going to start flowing propellants into the first stage engines to bring them down from temperature and to also fill them with fuel so you don't have any air pockets during your startup sequence in the fuel lines. And then after that, about 5 minutes from now, at T-minus 5 minutes, we will have Dragon transition over to internal power, basically separating itself from the ground side power equipment. And then at T-minus 1 minute, we have auto sequence start, meaning that the vehicle will take over full control from the rest of the terminal count. So,
Dragon, SpaceX. Confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon displays are configured for launch.
yep, talking about the internal
This is the
displays.
pilot, Nicole Ayers, and on behalf of Crew-10, we'd like to say that today we celebrate the countless individuals all over the world that have made this journey possible. To the engineers, instructors, flight controllers, scientists, and leaders who worked tirelessly to get us here, thank you for your dedication to the safety and success of this mission. And a special thank you to our friends and families for your unwavering love and support. This mission is a testament of what humans can achieve when we work together. Go Crew-10!
Hell yeah. So that was Anna McLean over the countdown net.
Such great words from the crew.
All the thumbs up from the crew.
Again, and some cheering going on. You can see that on your screen.
SpaceX copies. And from the entire SpaceX team here, it's been a pleasure working together to prepare for this mission. And from all of us, good luck, Godspeed, go Crew-10, and enjoy the ride.
Nice. So this is basically it. 8 minutes out. 1 minute down from
Great
engine
comms.
chill
That was
down.
from our core here in Hawthorne.
About 7 minutes until automated sequence start.
There are many systems in place to ensure that the rocket and the crew are both safe leading up to liftoff.
Indeed, Andy, that's pretty cool.
And now that we are in terminal count, our teams are performing those
It's a
final
good-looking
checks
craft,
before
right,
launch.
Chad? Look at that thing.
Coming up
Look at that
here
little guy.
in just a few minutes, we will start having that stage 1 engine chill start, and now we're just
It's kind of
over 8
crazy to
minutes
think
away
in terms
from
of scale that Falcon 9, or I'm sorry, so Crew Dragon is a lot smaller than the Orion capsule that gets sent to the moon. I don't remember off the top of my head like what the volume difference is, but like the crew capsule is on the order of the same size as Apollo, and Apollo is significantly smaller from the Orion capsule.
and then after liftoff. And these are SpaceX flight controllers reporting on trajectory, speed, booster performance, and other key milestones.
Yeah, Kegger, there you go. Do it.
Some of the callouts you will hear
Go
after
down to
liftoff
Starbase,
are
right?
a combination of letters and numbers, which will mark different abort zones throughout the flight up the eastern seaboard. The first two are 1 Alpha and 1 Bravo, which are abort modes available while the first stage is firing. And then the next round of numbers and letters you'll hear are 2 Alpha through 2 Echo, though you'll only hear the 2 Alpha call on the public loops, and those will come into play once the second stage kicks in. And then diverting a little bit from the other naming system, you will hear the call out Shannon, which refers to Shannon, Ireland. And this call means the crew could
Orion
target
is
off the
humongous,
coast of
yeah.
Ireland if they needed
Orion
to
is
abort
humongous.
late in the second stage burn. And you'll continue to hear those different callouts along with key performance callouts from the guidance, navigation, and control officer along with the propulsion lead. We're now just under 7 minutes away from launch.
We should.
Are chilling in for flight.
I was just about to say we should be hearing about engine chill down right now.
And we just heard that confirmation that the stage 1 engine chill has started.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. That call out is because we are flowing a little bit of liquid oxygen into the engines. That's to help prepare the vehicle or the engines for the full flow of liquid oxygen into the engines. That makes sure that we don't shock the system at that full flow. Now we are still loading. Excuse me.
Okay.
At liftoff,
I think she's
Falcon 9
hearing
is
stuff in her
consuming
ear,
about
right? Because
700
she's
gallons
listening
of
on the
fuel per
internal
second.
countdown net.
So engine chill helps us.
So they're
prevent
hearing more
that
comms than we
overshot
are. Locks load complete.
into the engine. So again, we have passed that T-minus 7 minute mark. Next call out will be stage 1, RP1 loading complete, which we just heard that.
Yep.
And
So basically that point on, so LOX load has complete, but they're going to continue now for the next 2.5 minutes or so, what's known as stuffing the tanks. So the vehicle is fully fueled, right, with liquid oxygen, but because liquid oxygen is constantly boiling off, they're going to continuously load liquid oxygen to make sure it's very, very, very tipped off right until they close it and press for flight. So the kerosene has completed loading. We heard that call out. LOX load should be completing here as well. And then after that is all good to go, they'll close out the tanks, press them for flight. Pressing for flight meaning basically bringing them up to flight pressure, which can be anywhere like, a few bars of pressure on the inside to make sure that as the tanks they basically have enough pressure behind them to push them through the turboprops and into the engines. So everything is coming together here. We're 5 minutes away. We're about right about now. We should hear. I was about to say we should hear the strong back retract.
Terminal count.
And there we just heard that call out for terminal count. So now Dragon onboard computers will take control of the spacecraft.
There we go.
And we also heard that the propellant tanks on Falcon 9 are getting ready to pressurize, adding some additional structural support to the rocket as we get ready for that.
When we see a
strong
tanker
back
test,
to
eventually,
retract.
yeah.
And that strong back provides access to Falcon's 9 fueling.
Strong
Falcon
back
9's fueling
lower
lines.
has started.
There we go. Strong back lower has started.
Strong back lower has now started, and again, that strong back provides access to Falcon 9's fueling lines and umbilicals for both propellant load and the different gases being loaded on board.
And what you should see on your screen is there's those clamp arms
There they go.
that
They're
are
starting to
around the
open.
second stage, just below Dragon. They're going to open up, and once they're fully open, then that strong
I hope they
back with
go
the
up to this
TE
camera
can
up
begin
here. This
to
camera
decline
up
away from the
here.
vehicle.
Oh, there it goes. Dang
Now,
it. I was hoping
initially,
we'd see the
we're going to
camera angle from
recline
up
that
there.
TE just about 2 degrees away from the vehicle, and then we will
Clamp arms are open?
fully move the TE about 45 degrees away up at T0.
So what I was saying earlier about Orion and Dragon capsule scale. So Dragon, right, fully loaded with crew and propellant and stuff to bring up to the ISS is around 13 metric tons. To put that into perspective, a fully loaded Orion with its launch escape system is 30 metric tons. So it's less than half of the mass, just from a mass perspective, than the Dragon capsule, which is just crazy to think about the scale of Orion.
First stage liquid oxygen or LOX load will complete, and we'll continue to check through a couple more fueling milestones, including one around the T-minus 2 minute mark before flight, where we'll hear
Great
liquid
shot.
oxygen
You see
loading
that
is
though,
complete
chat?
on
I
the
don't know if you
second
guys can
stage.
see it
Now,
on
you
the
can see all
stream,
those
but
white
the
clouds on
booster
your
is
screen. Those
is
are
waving
clouds of vapor,
ever so
and they're
slightly.
completely normal, and we'll
Ever
see
so
them
slightly.
continue to build up as we get closer to launch. This is because
Can you
liquid
hear
oxygen
Starship
is
from
super
Florida, from
chilled,
Jacksonville?
So a little of it will boil off in the warmer
Maybe.
Florida air.
It wouldn't surprise me, honestly, Andy.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
There's we go. LOX load complete on stage 1.
There, stage 1.
Count and on.
No, don't you do this to me, NASA.
Putting liquid oxygen onto stage
All right, I'm going to run a
2.
very short ad break, 1 minute on the
T-minus
Twitch
2 minute
side,
mark,
so that way
just
nobody
about
gets an ad
20
from here on
seconds
out,
from now.
and I'll see you guys right before launch. And in the meantime,
And once we
yeah, it should
finish
be good.
propellant loading, that will mean that 1 million pounds of RP1 and liquid oxygen will be loaded onto Falcon 9 here, just under 10 seconds.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
Stage 2 LOX load
Confirmation that the
complete.
Stage 2 liquid oxygen loading is now complete. We are under 2 minutes away from launch. Gas closeout has also begun. So we're now isolating all of the feed lines for the different gas systems
Good.
from the
And
Falcon 9
auto.
rocket. And those gases will then get vented overboard through umbilicals and the strong back. And you just heard that call out that Dragon is an
Ground gas
automated aisle.
closeout, expect loud venting.
There it goes. We're caught up.
Well, you can hear
All
that
right.
venting now. Obviously, rockets are very loud, and the sound can impart pressure loads back
Punishing
on
the people
rocket
that paid?
itself.
What do you mean?
The ton
What's
of
up, Benjamin?
water
How are you?
absorbs and prevents the sound from hitting the structure and reverberating back onto the
T-minus
rocket.
1 minute. We should have
And that
auto
call out
sequence
for
start
auto
here.
idle puts the rocket in a state the flight computers
swaying
understand
ever so
before it
slightly.
takes over, making sure the transition to
All right,
final
Twitch
countdown
side should be
is
back
smooth,
from the ad
and
break.
all the flight computers on board are in sync and configured for launch.
All right, just inside 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9's in startup. Basically, that means the onboard first stage
Countdown.
computers.
And in the final countdown, less than a minute to go. And
First
at the
stage
time of
computers have
launch,
full
the
control
space
over the
station will
vehicle
be
countdown
flying
from here.
260 stat-shoot miles over the west coast of
Dragon,
Australia.
SpaceX. Go for launch.
Hell yeah, there we go. That was the last call. We're go for launch. Range is green.
Dragon Crew-10, copy, go for launch.
Great call out that we're go for launch, and we do have a large crowd here in front of Mission Control,
T-minus 30 seconds.
waiting to watch Crew-10 take off today.
All right, watch for the green flash on ignition. There's the Rainbirds.
T-minus 15.
Green flash will come here. That's the igniter fluid. Might not be able to see it in the daylight.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
We have ignition.
Ignition.
Engines ramped up to full thrust, and they're off to ISS. Crew-10, Expedition 73 begins. Oh, look at that. Oh, that looks so good.
1.7 million pounds of thrust now propelling Falcon 9 and Crew-10. And we're continuing to get good
listen to the
call-outs
roar,
on the
chat.
stage performance so far.
Oh, so good. So good. Feel the power. All right, 3 kilometers altitude, vehicles pitching down range. Now remember, if you're anywhere on the East Coast, this is going northeast, right up the East Coast, so you should be able to see it.
Power and telemetry nominal. Continuing to get good performance call-outs.
All right, throttling down for max Q. Maximum dynamic
Throttling
pressure.
down the engines in preparation for Max Q.
There we go. Max Q call out.
What great
Vehicle is
timing that
going
was.
supersonic.
We just passed through Max Q. That's the largest structural load that the vehicle will see on ascent.
Vehicle supersonic.
Oh, it's still pitching down range, going up the East Coast.
Stage 1, throttle up.
And we're throttling up now that we're past Max
just over
Q.
1 minute and 10 seconds into today's flight, traveling at more than 1,400 miles per hour.
Stage 1 Bravo.
Stage 1 Bravo.
And we just heard that call out for 1 Bravo, which means we're in the second and final abort mode for the first stage, continuing to get good performance. And the crew already pulling over 2 Gs.
2
Next up, we'll
Gs.
have a couple of events happening in rapid succession.
Back chill started.
So now the upper stage.
On the second stage,
Oh, look at the plume expansion. As you get higher in the atmosphere, atmospheric pressure drops, those engines start expanding the plume.
We'll be separating from one another. Then the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will
So
ignite.
MVAC chill, like she's saying, is basically where they, again, just like the first stage, start flowing liquid oxygen into that single engine on the upper stage, preparing it for its ignition.
Just under 4,000 miles per hour.
Oh, what a
Just
shot.
about 20 seconds away from
What
those
a
events
shot.
that Anna just mentioned. The 9 Merlin engines.
Late
will shut
afternoon,
down
and even, of course, the
here in just
twilight.
about 10
Always such a
seconds
good
for
lighting
Leo.
for launch.
Stage separation and SES1.
Okay, stand by for SEP. They should cut to the interstage camera here. There it is. Now, for the second stage, you should be able to see it.
Main engine cut off.
You should see the green flash.
Stage separation confirmed.
Watch the green flash. Watch the green flash.
Great call-outs and incredible views there.
Ooh, it was a little bit
On the
delayed there. You could not see it. It moved out of the camera frame. There's boost back. Oh, boost back. It looks so good. Look at that booster flip around to come back to an RTLS return to launch site landing at landing zone 1. Oh, that was awesome. That was such a good shot. There's the second stage in the background there.
Views there. Now the booster is
There's the first stage in this camera shot. You can see it in both cameras. Oh, that was so good.
45 seconds.
Wow.
And the Crew-10 crew is still onboard Dragon attached to Falcon 9
that was
stage,
awesome.
which you can see there on your right-hand screen.
And we're now at 3 minutes and 20 seconds into today's flight. The vehicle is traveling about 6,500 miles per hour. They are on their way to the space station. And we did have that confirmation.
That was such a good camera angle.
Coming up of the boost back shutdown. And then
Ooh, that camera track. All right, boost back has shut down.
6-minute mark. And there we have our first images of the crew inside the Dragon spacecraft as they make their way into orbit.
So what they're watching, they have screens in front of them showing them telemetry.
Continuing to get good call-outs.
SpaceX Dragon, copy nominal.
Stage 2, it continues to be on power with in its firing until we
Oh,
get
look,
to
there you can see the
second
ascent,
stage engine
the
cutoff
contrails
around
from the
9-minute
ascent
mark
right there.
of flight, about 5 minutes of flight to go before Dragon will be flying free.
Some cool views there on your left-hand screen.
So what you're
That's
seeing on that
stage.
first stage is the attitude control system. They have thrusters at the very top, and it's basically just very, very small puffs of compressed nitrogen gas, which is called a cold gas thruster. And they're basically thrusting down to kind of give it a larger arc, just ever so slightly. They basically fire in all directions as well, so that way they can rotate and spin around in preparation for their re-entry burn.
Separation events, and it's going to continue to build up until then.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Looking good on orbital insertion so far on the second stage.
We're now at 5 minutes into today's flight with a liftoff at 7:03 p.m. Pacific, 7:03 p.m.
200 kilometers
4:03 p.m.
altitude.
Pacific. Continuing to get good call-outs as Stage 1 makes its way back to Earth, and Stage 2
what a great
continues
shot
to
of
fire,
Earth, though, chat.
propelling Dragon
Look
into
at that. Crazy.
If you're just now joining us, the 4 members of Crew-10
Yeah, Dr. Longballs,
launched
indeed.
from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space
All right,
Center in Florida.
first stage should be approaching its re-entry burn.
Currently on board Dragon, still attached to Falcon 9 second stage, which you're seeing there on your right-hand screen, on your left-hand screen. The first stage vehicle.
Look at those
is making its
RCS
way back
puffs,
down
those
to
attitude
Earth.
control
It
system
already
puffs.
completed the first of 3 burns.
How great is that?
As the boost back burn, and The next event coming up for that vehicle.
So the booster's now almost facing directly
burn.
at us towards the camera. So it's basically starting to fly back right down.
There. That entry burn is coming up.
SpaceX Dragon, copy nominal.
Entry burn should be here in like 10 seconds, maybe 15.
In just under 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
We'll reignite 3 of those 9 Merlin 1D engines to help.
So
slow
watch
the
it over
vehicle
here.
down
You'll probably be able to
as it
see it
makes
really
its way
good if
back
they
into
show
the
this
Earth
camera. It's going to go single engine burn, then outboard engines ignite for a 3 engine burn, then back to a single engine burn before full shutdown. There it is! Supersonic retropropulsion. So this is protecting the vehicle coming through re-entry. There's a single engine burn. Watch for the change in plume. There you go. Awesome. That was a fast one too. That was such a great shot.
There, we just saw
Now look
on
at it. It's
screen,
flying as best it can using body lift. It doesn't have wings, but it can still fly.
From the ground, which is awesome.
Orienting itself for a landing at LZ1 back at Cape Canaveral.
Coming up will be the
Oh, look at
landing
it!
for the first stage.
It's literally
That's coming up
steering
here in
itself
about
in,
30
chat.
seconds.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Oh my god, what a camera track! Wow. Look at it
Confirmation
turn!
there from the crew as they continue to make their way into orbit. Now 7 minutes
Stabilizing.
into today's flight, the first stage making its way back down to
My
Earth.
goodness, that camera angle is insane.
This is an awesome view. Let's see if we can see the
No,
center engine
zoom
relay
out!
for that
Oh, there you
landing
go.
burn here in a
There's
few
the engine,
seconds.
single engine into 3, and then back down to 1 again.
There's that landing burn. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down on landing zone 1.
Sonic boom. Ah, easy mode, chat. Easy mode. Booster 1090 back for a second time. That was the second reuse of that particular booster. The camera's on its job, isn't it?
That the first stage has made its way back to Earth. We're about a minute away from the second engine cutoff.
So
which we're
second stage,
expecting
you're
around
looking
the
for
9-minute
around
mark of
26,000
today's flight.
kilometers an hour. So we only have about 4 to 5,000 kilometers an hour to go.
And Dragon and all of the systems on the vehicle are performing as expected.
Man, what a good launch.
Just over 8 minutes into today's flight, traveling more than 21,000
The white and black
miles
tank,
per
yeah.
hour.
Falcon 9 rolls coal, chat. That RP1 is essentially kerosene. It's almost like
Hearing
diesel.
good call-outs.
So when it burns, it gets very
About 30
sooty.
seconds away from that second engine cutoff, and then shortly after that, about a minute or so later, we
So
will
good.
have
So good.
orbital insertion.
So in about another 1,500.
SpaceX copy, Shannon.
And that call out there for Shannon, and that is
Another
the call out
return.
for Shannon, Ireland, which is the final abort stage for the second stage off the coast of Ireland. Standing by for a second engine cutoff.
And back shutdown.
There we go, 27,000 kilometers an hour. Oh, look at the nozzle. Nozzle oscillations as it shuts down. You see that vibrating? Oh, that's so good.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
Awesome. They hit the mark. Brilliant. Wait for separation.
Confirmation of
escape system disarmed.
good confirmation of orbital insertion. Crew-10 is now well on their way to the International Space
So
Station.
at around
following a
about
9.5
10
minute
minutes,
flight uphill.
in about 20 seconds, capsule should separate from the second stage.
Now, the second stage is preparing for Dragon separation here.
So we're
which
looking
should
up at the
happen,
trunk, or from the trunk, I should
shortly,
say.
in about 10-15 seconds is what we're expecting. And
There
we're
it
preparing
goes.
for stabilizing the
Oh,
second stage
nice,
so that we can have a
easy.
smooth
Look
separation.
at them. They're in 0G, by the way. If you guys saw
And
their...
there, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the crowd is going wild.
I actually don't know what that is. I hope that's okay.
You can see that Dragon
I haven't seen that
separation,
before.
That second stage making its way.
Whoa, Warlock coming in for
Dragon is
46
now
Kerbal
flying
years.
green.
Here, stand by. What
10
was that?
minutes. On the left-hand side of your
separation.
Oh, it comes from
And
the
there,
bottom. It comes
you can
from
see
the
on the
second
left-hand side.
stage.
Separation.
Interesting.
And there, you can see on the
All right.
left-hand.
Make sure we're
10
live.
minutes into today's flight. That was about a minute after we had
Look
that
at that,
second
though.
engine
They're in 0G.
cutoff and orbital insertion.
That's amazing. Yeah,
It
it didn't
looks
need
like
that
a
panel.
good
It's fine.
separation, good rates.
It looked like it was from the
Dragon
upper
now
stage,
flying
so I don't know.
free.
Oh, look at the RCS! The reaction control system on Dragon stabilizing.
There on the right-hand side of your screen,
Going through its
you
checkout
can
and
see
commissioning
some
phase.
first images of Crew-10 inside the
Oh,
Dragon
look at that.
Endurance
Roll
spacecraft
control.
as they're now successfully in orbit.
Nice.
SpaceX Chief Engineer on Countdown 1. On behalf of the entire Falcon team,
oh, look,
we
the
thank
moon.
you for flying with Falcon and wish you a great mission. Over to LD.
Yeah, that's the moon
It was
over
an
there.
honor flying with you this evening. We wish you well on your journey and give Crew 9 our best. Thank you for flying SpaceX.
That hunk of metal is what? I don't know. It looks like it came from the second stage, though.
Crew-10 Commander Ann McClain, thank you to all of the teams from across the world who contributed to the launch today. Spaceflight is tough, but humans are tougher. Days like today are made possible only when people choose to do the harder right over the easier wrong. Build relationships, choose cooperation, and believe in the inherent goodness of all people across the world. To my family and friends, without you, I would not be here. Explore boldly, live gracefully, go Crew-10. And over to pilot Nicole Ayers.
Pilot Nicole Ayers again. We're not the first humans to get to orbit, and we wouldn't be here without the bravery and hard work of those who have paved the way for human spaceflight. We now get the unique perspective of Earth without borders and get to revel in the connectedness of humanity. I would be remiss to not once again acknowledge those who helped me get here.
Haven't seen it yet,
To this
Warlock.
wonderful view and this perspective, to the teachers, coaches, fellow officers, fellow teammates, Raptor Nation.
Here's
to
your
my
zero
friends
gravity
and
indicator.
family That encouraged my
An
dreams
index card.
from the start. Thank you. I wouldn't be here without you.
Anna McClain is playing with the index card. That's awesome. Hey, Hippie, how are you doing?
I want to say a huge thank you to NASA and SpaceX, especially
So Nishi?
the Falcon 9 team for the successful launch, and we are looking forward to a smooth ride to the International Space Station.
They got a 13-hour cruise.
たくさんの応援ありがとうございます。9年ぶりの無重力の感覚をかみしめてます。これから先の ISS への宇宙の旅、楽しんでいきたいと思います。I will now hand the mic over to Mission Specialist Kirill.
Kirill Peskov from Roscosmos.
Thanks a lot to NASA and SpaceX for this wonderful ride, and I want to say a couple of words in Russian. Пользуясь такой чудесной возможностью, хочу поздравить с 65-летием со дня начала подготовки.
Are their tummies feeling funny right now? Yeah, for sure.
И также хочу сказать
Oh, there it is!
за те знания и жизненный опыт, который мной были получены в тех стенах для того, чтобы выполнить этот полет. А также спасибо школе номер 14 города Назарова, Ульяновскому высшему авиационному училищу гражданской авиации и авиакомпании «Макар» и «Нордвинд», где я начинал свой путь в небо. И, конечно же, спасибо большое семье и за поддержку.
Awesome. So they're in space chat. They're in a stable orbit, 202-kilometer altitude at 27,000 kilometers an hour. From here, we should have the forward nose cone open sequence starting.
Dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts.
In fact, it should already even be open, and so that's what he was calling there, is that they're going to start doing their Draco checkouts for the nose. And it's actually those nose, they have, when the whole nose cone opens, because it's on a hinge and it opens up, it basically allows the 4 primary thrusters to basically be able to then thrust. So Dragon literally flies backward through space from the orientation of the crew capsule, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, we didn't get, unfortunately, any pictures of the nose cone opening, but that's okay. That's okay. Hopefully we'll be able to see it off of the SpaceX X account or something like that. Yeah, like I said, they should have now about a 13-hour flight to the International Space Station. So hopefully they'll be there around 6 a.m. Mountain Time-ish, if I'm not mistaken. What we're looking at there is the engine bell from the second stage that it's already separated from.
And such great words from Crew-10, as well as the core here in Hawthorne and Mission Control. We also got confirmation that the nose cone deploy is underway. The 6 hooks that hold the nose cone in place during the launch and ascent portions have to retract, and then the nose cone will be able to start to swing open and deploy. Now, this uncovers a number of critical systems for the flight up to the space station, including the forward bulkhead thrusters.
Do they stream
and
docking? They will,
hatch.
yeah. That was the Quindar tone. That beep that you hear?
Just pausing in case there were going to be any comms.
There it is, though.
And we
that
did
right there.
have,
There's the moon.
Good confirmation, good checkouts
There's the capsule.
of the 12 Draco thrusters around the service section. Now, 4 to go after we get the nose cone open, and then the ECLIS, the environmental control and life support system, activated inside of Dragon. Now, soon the crew will be able to get their visors open and get out of their suits and settle in for the ride.
I missed the booster return. You did, and we're going to show it again. Don't
And
you
now
worry.
we're
It was
just waiting
awesome.
for confirmation that the nose cone has fully deployed with all of the hooks open.
Good.
But just to recap a little bit, we did have a successful liftoff of Crew-10
sorry,
about
Warlock.
18 minutes ago at 7:03 p.m. Eastern, 4:03 p.m. Pacific. And following an approximately 9-minute ride after liftoff, we had that orbital insertion, and Dragon and Crew-10 were flying free and well on their way to the International Space Station.
What a flight.
They now have an approximately a 28-hour journey before they do reach their destination of the space station.
20?
And
I thought it
that
was 13.
docking is
Okay.
targeted for
How
tomorrow,
much did you say?
Mark Space Station. They now have an approximately a 28-hour journey
28?
before they
That
do
was
reach their
13, okay.
destination. Between now and then, Dragon will perform a series of burns as it catches up to the space station, and that first burn will be a phase burn about 30 minutes from now at 4:52 p.m. Pacific, 7:52 p.m. Eastern.
I love the instant gratification. I know,
And the
right?
nose cone is about 75% open at this point. Human spaceflight has come so far in the last 5 years with Dragon. In addition to flying people, SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft also enables researchers the opportunity to fly critical science to orbit. And so far, SpaceX and Dragon have carried over 1,000 research experiments to and from low Earth orbit, both to the International Space Station and on our free flyer missions. From DNA sequencing to 3D printing studies enabled by Dragon and the space station test Dragon and the space station test a variety of technologies, systems, and
Yeah,
materials
maybe not, right?
that will be needed for future long-duration exploration missions. Now, every mission yields critical science.
Yeah, I guess I looked at the timeline for docking incorrectly, because I definitely thought it was like a 13-hour difference, but maybe I was looking at the wrong time zone or something. But yeah, so 28 hours from here until they rendezvous and get into their docking procedures with the ISS. So yeah, they got a little ways to go. But yeah, they're in space. Don't forget that, as they were saying, you know, that they've come a long way with Crew Dragon. Don't forget that this particular capsule, Endurance, that they are flying on, has already flown 3 other crew missions, which is kind of wild to think about.
Nose cone has fully deployed. And we may also get some additional look inside the cabin of the crew.
Yeah, as we patiently wait for those views, we are trying to see if we can get some views. We were seeing some views from the second stage. This looks like it might be a view from the forward.
Dragon SpaceX nominal nose cone opening and forward bulkhead Draco checkouts.
Nice. So the nose cone is open.
SpaceX Dragon copies and confirm nominal ECLIS activation and go for visors.
And there we heard confirmation that the nose cone has fully deployed and that the crew is now able to lift their visors. And there again, we're seeing some views inside the Dragon Endurance spacecraft with Crew-10 on their way to the International Space Station.
Affirm, you are go to open visors.
Nice.
Copy.
Great calls there. They're go to open visors, which means
What is
that
the clock
shortly
going
they'll
on
also be
now?
able to,
No, this is
get out
just
of their
time
suits
since
and
liftoff,
get
if that's what you're
comfortable
talking
for
about.
the entire ride.
It's been
on
20
Dragon
minutes,
to the International
20
Space Station.
minutes since T0.
And
They're already in
from
orbit.
left to right on your screen, there's Roscosmos cosmonaut Kirill Peskov, NASA astronaut Nicole Ayers, NASA astronaut Ian McLean, and then far on the right-hand side of your screen is JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi.
I love how they're just throwing things around
And there you can
in the
see that they
zero-G
are in
environment.
microgravity as their tablets are floating around there. They do have them attached to a little string that helps allow them so that, as they're strapped into their seats, they don't lose their tablets.
We're now just over 20 minutes into today's flight following that successful liftoff at 7:03 p.m. Eastern.
So what's interesting, so if anybody wants to work for SpaceX, and if you have a background in like UX, right, for programming, SpaceX has been known to quite literally poach game designers, UX designers, and all that from other companies, because do you see these screens and the UIs here? Those have been developed by SpaceX from the ground up, and they quite literally poach and hire talent for UX design, which is pretty cool.
Live Crew-10 out in space in.
So you don't have to be like an aerospace engineer is what I'm getting at.
They lifted off.
You have game development experience and UI experience and whatnot.
7:03 p.m. Eastern time.
Dragon SpaceX, there are about 3 minutes remaining in the current ground station pass. At this time, you're welcome to introduce your zero-G indicator. We're using the full crew cam so we can see all 4 crew members right now.
Zero-G, let's go. What is it?
All right, copy. Thank you, SpaceX. We'd like to introduce the Crew-10 G indicator. Takuya is holding him up. This is a hand crochet origami crane. Japanese origami.
That's awesome.
Hand crocheted in the United States, and his name is Drug, which is the Russian name for friend.
Drug.
Origami is the Japanese art of folding paper. This is a nod to the unique and deep cultural traditions from which each of us come. While we're from different parts of the world,
there's the head, there's the tail, the 2 wings. It's a little origami swan.
The folded paper design was also chosen to represent paper airplanes that we made when we were kids, before we were astronauts, when all we had was a dream. And we looked up at the sky and we wondered, what if? It's a symbol that every big accomplishment starts with a quiet dream.
That's awesome.
Dreams do come true when you believe in yourself and you listen only to.
They do require human factors education. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
All of the dreamers. The flag and the number markings on the crane. There's a number 10 on each of its
good to know,
and a
Kato.
flag from each one of our countries.
That's from the UX side, like from the programming side.
Each of our shared experiences as professional pilots. These patches are arranged to look like an airplane. This is a source of deep pride for our crew.
That's what that is right there, the patches.
Like to talk about the fact that they're a pilot. But this also symbolizes our shared culture as astronauts. In the years of training together, we found we have far more in common than we do different. Our zero-G indicator was handmade by a small business owner in the United States.
Not Brug. Okay.
This represents all the hands which created our entire program. And this rocket and this capsule that we're flying today. It also represents all of the artists and musicians who inspire people to imagine beyond what they can see. Spaceflight is perhaps the most complex endeavor of our time, but it was built one step at a time, by one person at a time. Finally, the origami crane is the international symbol for peace, hope, and healing. Crew-10 hopes to serve as a beacon of hope, a reminder of what humans can accomplish when we see the goodness in one another and we choose to work together toward a common goal.
Like the moon.
Today, we are united not through common enemies, but through shared optimism and a basic belief in the goodness of humanity.
I do too as well, Naps.
It is far easier to be enemies than it is to be friends. It's easier to break partnerships and relationships than it is to build them.
I think it's from Japanese culture, Warlock.
And success depends on leaders of character who choose the harder right over the easier wrong, and who build programs, partnerships, and relationships. We explore for the benefit of all. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, then go together. Crew-10 chooses to go together in peace, because you cannot be great without the greatness of others. Go NASA, go Roscosmos, go JAXA, and go Crew-10.
I wish Onishi would like throw it to Kirill here from the far right to the far left, because the camera's over here. Like show us the close-up of the little guy. But yeah, like you're saying, do you get tired of like all the speeches? Sometimes, especially when they go on like that.
We really appreciate those words, Ann. Thanks for introducing.
No, it's all part of the, I don't know, ceremony, if you will. Because quite literally, spaceflight is still for humans not common. It's more common, but it's not like we fly like an airplane, right? So there's some ceremony behind it, some tradition, if you will. Whose speech was that? SpaceX or Takuya's? Well, it definitely wasn't SpaceX. It was Anne McClain was providing it, but I don't know who like would have written it. I'm not sure.
Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
It could have been Anne McClain. She's commander. She could have written that.
28-hour journey ahead of them before they reach their destination, the International Space Station. Again, docking is targeted for
Have there been any videos or live streams from the Moon rover? The Moon rover. Which rover? You're not talking about the Blue Ghost lander, are you?
Burns to catch up with the space station, and that first burn will be taking place around 4:52 p.m. Pacific, 7:52 p.m. Eastern today.
And those were some great words about the zero-G indicator. Very incredible. Human spaceflight has come so far in the last 5 years with Dragon. In addition to flying people, SpaceX's
By the way, Chad, don't forget in about 30 minutes from now, we have a rocket lab launch that we got to get to as well.
Now, so far, SpaceX and Dragon have carried over 1,000 research experiments to and from
We have the Lightning God Reigns mission.
Space Station and on our free flyer missions. From DNA sequencing to 3D printing, studies enabled by Dragon and the space station test a variety of technology, systems, and materials that will be needed for future long-duration exploration missions.
Wow.
Every mission yields critical research and learnings that help make life both on Earth and in space.
Blue Ghost is a lunar lander contracted by NASA as part of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services contract. And yeah, there have been many videos from there, which is actually pretty crazy. This one we got just yesterday. Not that one, this one. Check this out. This is from the Blue Ghost lander. If you remember, last night was in the Western Hemisphere a lunar eclipse. This is from the surface of the moon, looking at Earth, eclipse the sun from the lunar perspective. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, we've gotten videos. I think I showed them on my last stream when we did Space News. I showed several videos from the Firefly lander, which is pretty awesome.
Back over to you, Jessica and Daryl at the Kennedy Space Center to wrap up today's coverage.
And welcome back to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we just watched Crew-10 lift off from Launch Pad 39A. The crew is now en route to the International Space Station. I'm Daryl Nail. This is NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, who just watched
do some game
one
snaps,
of her close friends and many friends, Crew-10, go up into space.
Awesome. So yeah, like I said, now they basically have a 28-hour flight. I thought it was 13 originally. I was wrong about that. A 28-hour flight to the International Space Station. So they're going to be strapping in and hanging out for a full day in the small-ish Dragon capsule there, but then they'll be on the International Space Station. All of this to relieve Expedition 72, which will be part of the Crew-9, the two astronauts that came up as part of Crew-9, and then of course bringing home Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, the astronauts that had to stay up there due to the issues in the Starliner capsule. They'll be coming home as part of the Crew-9 capsule return. So yeah, should be an overall good mission. This is going to be a 6-month mission for Crew-10. So they're going up here. They're going to take a day to get to the ISS, and then their 6-month stay begins, which is pretty insane. Pretty insane. But anyways, chat, let's look back at the launch there, especially the return. Absolutely crazy. What a great flight that was. Let me just tell you what. And then to answer your question, Naps, about the game stream, I think I do want to do a game stream. I'm not exactly sure yet, because my plan here is to cover the 2 launches here now. And because I left work a little bit early to cover, I was thinking about taking kind of like a break in between the 2 streams, basically cutting stream in half, and then doing a second stream a little bit later to cover the launch, and then maybe we can do a launch of our own in Kerbal Space Program as well. Because that transporter mission, Transporter 13, is at midnight my time. So in about 6.5 hours from now is the transporter mission, and I do want to cover that. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll probably pick up stream again, an hour or 2 before that launch, and we'll do our mission in Kerbal Space Program and before covering the next flight. But let's look back here at this amazing launch coverage as part of Crew-10's flight. 3, 2, 1. Just listen to the roar, chat. What a flight. What a great shot there.
1.7 million pounds of thrust now propelling Falcon 9 and Crew-10.
Ooh, that sounds so good.
On the first stage performance so
So
far.
once the vehicle clears the tower, it's going to start rolling. You can start to see it rolling just a little bit there at the end. And now it's doing its pitch over maneuver. Super good. You missed it? Yeah, no worries. We're definitely going to cover it back down. So we'll have
Now
throttle
40
down.
seconds into today's flight.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Throttle down on the first stage engines in preparation for max Q. There it is. Max Q is the highest load, structural load that the vehicle experiences during flight. Max Q essentially means you're starting to go supersonic.
Largest structural load that the vehicle will see on ascent.
I just said that.
Vehicle supersonic.
So yeah, basically when you hit max Q, that's the, you're getting the highest compressive loads because you're still subsonic, going through the transonic regime, which is a lot of drag, a lot of forces happening there. And then once you break the sound barrier, drag starts to decrease again.
1 Bravo, which means we're in the second and final abort mode for the first stage, continuing to get good performance.
Yep, forming the shockwave, that's right.
Already pulling over 2 Gs. Next up, we'll have a couple of events happening in rapid succession.
Spec chill started.
First will be that engine chill on the second
I noticed you didn't
stage
call
with
them
that
stuck.
engine
I
hurt,
purposefully
and then we'll have
avoided
MEGO,
that because that is some.
Where the 9 engines
that
on the
is
first
some,
stage will
just
cut off ahead of the first and second stages. Will be separating from one another. Then the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will
So now the
ignite
second
and continue
stage is
carry
starting to do its
Crew-10
MVAC chill, meaning that just like the first stage, they're starting to flow a little bit of liquid oxygen through the propellant lines to chill down that engine and make sure there's no air pockets during startup.
We're just about 20 seconds away from
Air
those
pockets are
events
bad
that
in a
Honor
rocket
just
engine.
mentioned.
Causes
The
explosions.
9 Merlin engines will shut down here in just about 10 seconds for MEGO.
Now, what's really important here for those of you that missed this
one.
flight on the first go round is just pay attention to the left side of the screen. The camera work on the first stage track was so good. It was awesome.
Main engine cutoff.
SpaceX Dragon, 2 Alpha.
Stage separation.
Oh,
Copy, 2 Alpha.
so good. Stand by.
Great callouts and incredible views there.
There
on
you
the
can
left-hand
see
screen.
the booster
Your left-hand
RCS
screen, you can see a
thrust
view
to
from
turn it
stage
around.
one.
There's the boost back burn. There's the backflip from the booster. What you're seeing here, all of this, are the 2 plumes from the first and second stage, basically impinging. It's called plume impingement. They're basically interacting and they're compressing the gases together, and you're getting all of these like ignition light phenomenon. It's just, it's such a good shot. Look at that. Booster and boost back. And there you can see the second stage from the boost back. And then when the second stage cuts to the other camera angle, there you can see the first stage boosting back. So from the first stage, you can see the second stage, and from the second stage, you can see the first stage.
Back down to Earth. This will last about 45 seconds. And the crew,
So
10
good.
crew is still on board ready.
That's such good cameras.
Stage, but you can see there on your
SpaceX
right-hand
spoils
screen.
this chat.
And we're now at 3 minutes and 20 seconds into today's flight. The vehicle is traveling about 6,500
Watch the pilot
miles
start
per
to sweat.
hour.
Yeah, fair enough,
They are
naps.
on their way to the space station. And we did have that confirmation coming up of the boost back shutdown. And then coming up in
Nice.
at the T+6.
Then we're going to fast forward just a little bit here.
Second stage.
And we're going to get to,
Cool views
so
there
what's
on your
awesome
left-hand
here is, like
screen.
I showed out, said earlier, called out earlier, you can see the attitude control system. So they actually have what's known as cold gas thrusters at the top of the, or actually it should be at the bottom of the inner stage on the first stage at the top. And that's flowing liquid nitrogen, well, compressed nitrogen, I should say, in through thrusters, and it's expelling them out, and that provides attitude control. It doesn't need a lot. So the short little puffs that you see are basically it, very, very slowly turning it around so that the engines come first as it goes through the atmosphere ahead of its supersonic retropropulsion burn maneuver.
5 minutes into today's flight.
What the heck just happened? Why would you do that?
To be ready.
Again, target
Where-
our
where-
backup.
Maybe a little
What
hard to
happened?
see on your
More than
What the heck?
from those
All right.
events that honor.
That was so weird. I don't know, maybe the stream ended and it restarted? That was weird. All let's bring it back to where it was.
First stage booster as it's making
like,
its
what
way
the heck?
back down to Earth. This is ground train.
So let's go ahead and bring it around. So there you can see the
nominal trajectory.
vehicle is basically turning itself around to go engine first. We should have engine ignition here very soon.
Just under 20 seconds. We'll reignite 3 of those 9 Merlin 1D
And look at this shot of the supersonic retropropulsion. Absolutely insane. So good.
We're now just over 6 minutes into today's flight as Dragon and the second stage continue traveling.
Oh, look at that. Oh, it's so good, man.
Making their way into orbit and on the way to the International Space Station.
Yep, supersonic retropropulsion. It flies through its own exhaust gas to prepare, well, to basically shield itself from the re-entry heat that it goes through. And now look at it fly. So you can see, you can tell it's flying because of the way that it is, chat. So the booster, right, is basically pointed like this up above the camera, but from the airstream of the stuff falling off, well, from the gases of it basically going through its own exhaust gas here, it's basically flying like this. So it's what it's trying to do is use what's known as body lift. It's basically using drag, if you will, at a different angle or vector in order to try and help provide forward momentum, just like a plane does with wings, except this doesn't have wings. It just has its fuselage. It just has its body to be able to do that. So what it's trying to do right now is basically fly itself back towards the pad. Just what a great shot.
Views of that from the ground, which is awesome.
You can see it steering itself in. Look at that, the grid fins are actuating and it's basically turning itself back and forth.
Dragon SpaceX.
Oh, that's so good.
Again, great call outs for
Look at that.
Confirmation there.
Turning
from the
itself
crew
back
as they
towards the
continue to
pad,
make their
trying to
way into
align
orbit.
itself with the
7
landing
minutes into
zone.
today's flight, the first stage making its way back down to Earth, and the second stage continuing to fire.
This is an awesome view. Let's see if we can see the center engine relight for that landing burn
The fins,
here
yeah,
in a few seconds.
they are. They're definitely hit with supersonic air, 100%.
There's that landing
Oh, you can see the grid fins actuating. You see that? Grid fins are going like this. The sonic booms. Oh, and just touchdown, nice and easy. Yep, that's why the grid fins have teeth. Helps direct the flow through the grid fins, providing additional lift. And then look at this separation event. I don't know what that panel was that fell off, but
stage is preparing
seemed
for
fine.
Dragon separation here, which should happen shortly. In about 10-15 seconds is what we're expecting. Now we're preparing for
Look over here.
the second
I don't
stage
know
so
what
that
this
we can have a
is. It
smooth
comes from the
separation.
second stage, though. See, it comes
And
from the
there
second
you
stage.
can see on the left-hand side of your screen.
Like, what is that? What is that?
On your screen, you can see that Dragon separation.
All right, bye.
Stage making its way.
Some sort of
Dragon is
panel
now
off of the
flying
second
green.
stage during SEP there.
10 minutes into today's flight. That was about a minute after
At least I
we
think
had
it was
that
from the second stage because it looked like it
cutoff
came from
and
below the
orbital
second
insertion.
stage. So if it was from the first or from the capsule,
It looks like a good
we
separation,
would have seen it
good rates.
before we did,
Dragon
but
now
I'm
flying
not sure.
free.
And then look at the RCS thrust. Pre-famulated amulite?
There
Yeah,
on the
maybe.
right-hand side of
Maybe
your screen,
pre-famulated
you can
amulite.
see
Yeah,
some
100%.
First images of Crew-10 inside the Dragon Endurance
Nice.
spacecraft as they're now successfully in orbit.
Dragon, SpaceX, Chief Engineer on Countdown 1, on behalf of the entire...
All right, there you go. Okay, so quick timeout, chat, because we have another launch to get to, believe it or not, unless it got scrubbed or pushed back or whatnot.
To be useful for managing large-scale infrastructure.
Yes. Okay, cool. So this is going to be another launch from another provider. This is Rocket Labs. Let's see. Trying to figure out if I want to start a new YouTube stream. You know what? Maybe not. We'll keep it going. No, we'll keep the YouTube stream going here, even though it's a separate launch. Just because I don't expect this to be as long. We have 16 minutes until flight for the next mission, which is now. It's now, Chad. When will now be then? It's right this second.
Providing information essential for the
A double launch? Yes. Be still, my beating heart. 100%. Yeah, so this mission coming up here for Rocket Lab as part of their small sat launcher known as Electron. This is going to be a SAR mission, so a synthetic aperture radar, as part of the QPS or IQPS satellites. They're going to be sending a number of these payloads into low Earth orbit. Well, I should say one payload into low Earth orbit. It's about 100 kilogram SAR satellite. And it's used for Earth observation. So what they're talking about here from IQPS, what they want to do is, of course, have a constellation of these 36 of them. And what SAR satellites are really cool is that they provide really, really high resolution like depth of field analysis, to where you can actually, almost like a radar, get all the different terrain models, and you can get really, really high resolution on that. So SAR satellites are pretty cool. But because of the way a SAR system works, you typically need larger satellite systems. So they're starting to kind of shrink that size down. They're starting to use CubeSats, which I think is absolutely amazing. This is actually, I think, technically classified as a microsat because it's 100 kilograms. Yeah, this should be a pretty good flight. There is Electron flying out of New Zealand, chat, where Rocket Labs is stationed. So we'll have to see exactly what they say and what the mission's about.
It's also our third launch of the year so far.
CubeSats like 1U? Yeah, so CubeSats come in multiple sizes. You can have a 1U, which is 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters cubed. Or you can have any number of those cubes basically squashed together in different configurations. So you can have a 1U, a 2U, which is 2 of them together, a 3U, which is 3 of them stacked together. Then you can get into a 6U, which is essentially 2 3Us stacked side by side. Then you can get into a 12U, an 8U, a 16U, a 24U. It's kind of crazy the what's starting to happen with CubeSats. They're just getting bigger. But yeah.
Bringing the total number sent to space so far at 609.
Composite SAR for multiple sats? Yeah. 100%.
Faster than any other commercial
Planet Doves are 2U, that's right. Some are 3U even.
We also deployed well over 200 satellites to orbit. This year,
how's the volume on that, by the way, chat? Sometimes they underdrive their audio. Yeah, this is flying out of New Zealand. Absolutely beautiful.
All those figures and ready for the quiz at the end of today's broadcast.
But for now, let's give the numbers a rest and listen in for some very simple words instead. Go or no go? And that is the question our launch operators in mission and
volume's
range
good.
control
Awesome.
will be asked shortly by Launch Director Paula Teres-Serralonga. They'll each report status on the various vehicle, ground, and range systems they are responsible for, confirming whether or not they
So we're
are
about to
clear
get the
proceed with
go, no go
today's
poll.
liftoff. So let's listen in for those calls now.
All right, here we go. Go, no go poll. This is also not a replay, by the way. Boop. So they said, let's listen in, and then nothing. All right, stand by. Let's make sure we're caught up. Shouldn't be too far behind.
Tool stations LD in mission core proceeding with
Yes, correct, Naps. Yeah, to get higher resolution, you need a longer...
GNC.
GNC's go.
Resubscription received. T1.
Oh, Supersonic coming in with the 7 Kerbal years of support. Much love to you, my friend.
RSO.
RSO is go.
There we go, we're caught up.
MET.
MET is go.
MM.
So what we're looking at here is the mission control.
LDSAP is go. Go, no go sequence complete. We are T minus 11 minutes, 21 seconds and counting.
So far, go for launch.
Terminal count. Auto sequence at T minus 10 minutes. From this time, the 3-war procedure is in effect.
Nice. Yes, that was good. So I wanted to say before that, but we'll talk about it now. What's kind of crazy is, if you guys don't know, this is Electron's, I should say Rocket Lab's 3rd mission of the year. which is actually kind of crazy. It's actually a pretty good flight opportunity for Rocket Labs. They want to get somewhere on their belt like one a month, and they're kind of on track to do that. But to put that into perspective, SpaceX, we just watched them launch their 30th mission this year. So 30 missions in just 2.5 months right now for SpaceX in 2025 is absolutely wild. They are very much on track to hit their goal of 170 launches this year. Now, do keep in mind that it's a little unfair because SpaceX's #1 customer is themselves. So far, they have flown 2/3 of all of their launches, which have just been Starlink satellites. So Starlink missions, of course, it's kind of unfair when you are your own best customer. But at the same time, that just goes to show you how fast they're able to turn around their missions for SpaceX to be able to achieve that kind of flight rate. So yeah, pretty insane.
Microgravity conditions to conduct in-space manufacturing and technology.
They're talking about the Varda mission, which is going into space tonight.
Our first mission for Varda was successfully completed in 2024, proving that the microgravity conditions in space can support pharmaceutical processing, delivering results that are challenging to replicate on the ground.
Yep.
Bringing the capsule
So we'll
back
actually
to
talk
Earth
about this
starts with a
later.
maneuver to
They're working with
transition the
Varda to do
spacecraft from its
in-space
500 kilometer
manufacturing,
circular orbit.
where Varda builds the in-space manufacturing piece that's able to come back to Earth and re-enter. But Rocket Labs builds out a Photon as their actual satellite body. So they have a partnership where Rocket Labs builds the satellite, and then Varda builds the in-space manufacturing return vehicle.
From the Earth all the way up to 900 kilometers. Rocket Lab and Varda operators in mission control will be monitoring this closely. As soon as the desired landing location on Earth lines up with the re-entry path for our spacecraft, it will be all systems go. The Pioneer spacecraft will perform a third engine burn of the 3D printed Curie engine to set the Varda capsule on its return trajectory to Earth. During that descent, a fourth burn can occur out of our line of sight to keep the mission on target if an adjustment
There's
to
the
the
return
trajectory
capsule.
is needed.
There's the Rocket
Returning
Lab
at
built
hypersonic
satellite
speeds
bus.
at roughly 31,000 kilometers an hour. Our spacecraft will release the Varda capsule at an approximate 470
So that's set to
kilometer
launch here in
altitude.
like 6 hours.
This is the moment of success for Rocket Lab and our spacecraft. Then it's over to the Varda team to monitor the final re-entry, descent, landing, and recovery of the capsule once it reaches the ground. And just like that, from 900 kilometers above Earth to touchdown in South Australia, all in the space of just 15 minutes. The new era in space manufacturing continues.
Stand by. I want to see. I think we just saw a tweet from
Our
Varda.
third Pioneer spacecraft for Varda was integrated and is shortly awaiting launch. So looking forward to another re-entry in the weeks
there it
to
is.
come.
So this
Now,
is
today's
from
mission
inside
profile
that capsule. They have
follows
a
the standard
camera.
launch
This is from
sequence we've
Varda
come to
going through
expect
re-entry.
from orbital
This is from their
Electron
last
missions.
mission that just
So
concluded
after
like
liftoff,
last month.
Electron will move through
Look at
max
that.
Q, main engine cutoff, stage separation,
That's
second
re-entry
stage
heating.
ignition, fairing separation, and battery jettison before
Let's see
second
here.
engine cutoff and separation of the kick
Yep,
stage
there it is.
that carries the
See,
IQPS satellite.
that was the mission that just
Now,
concluded
that
for
full
Varda.
sequence takes less than 9 minutes, and then we are in an elliptical transfer orbit. And from there, the kick stage and the payload
Ooh.
coast around Earth for around 40 minutes
Ooh,
or so.
very nice.
Before a final circularization burn that takes us to a 575-kilometer orbit for final payload deployment.
KSP has a mod for
Now,
that.
there's
Yeah, of
one
course.
part in particular about that launch sequence that will be quite different for our new launch vehicle, Neutron, and that's the fairing in the stage 2 separation. So on Electron, the two halves of Electron's fairing split and fall away, completely ejecting from the vehicle to expose the payload to space, but it's a little bit different for Neutron.
Speaking of Neutron, since our new vehicle is designed for maximum reusability, we've taken a different approach with its fairing. Neutron employs a hungry hippo fairing where the two halves open wide and make way for Neutron's complete second stage plus payload to pass through and continue the mission to orbit.
It's actually really smart.
The fairing then closes back up.
There's strong back
remains attached
retract.
to the first stage, so the whole system can land back on Earth and be reused. We recently ticked off.
All right, so real quick on the Twitch side, it's because we're coming up on launch, I'm going to run a short ad break, mainly to get rid of all of the Twitch injected ads so nobody gets ads actually during launch and stuff. So yeah, we have 6 minutes. I'm going to run a short ad break. See you guys back here on the Twitch side before launch.
much to make a reusable launch vehicle the way it should be. And you end up with things like not throwing the fairings away and bringing them back down.
Neutron.
Yeah, so the fairing stays attached to the vehicle at all times. It's about 6 seconds altogether, so the fairing opens in
Look at
1.5
that.
seconds.
How
and
awesome.
There's a few seconds of the second stage being ejected from the first stage, and then there's about a 1.5 seconds for the fairing to close again, and then for us to tip over and head back home.
Look at that little guy.
Well, keeping the fairing means that it's much more efficient. You don't have to fish these things out of the ocean, which ultimately drives
Reminds
more
you of
cost.
trimmers?
There's
Ooh.
always a penalty for
Yes,
doing
it
these
does,
things. You know,
Warlock.
the first stage is
Yes, it does.
slightly heavier coming in and re-entering. But it just means we don't have a refurbishment activity or a recovery activity.
You know, I do have to say, though, I do wonder if they will have any problems with this whale mouth style of fairing separation. It is just interesting to think about, you know, will they have any problems? Because, you know, during like shutdown, especially of the first stage, you start getting propellant slosh issues. And we've seen that on numerous missions before from SpaceX and from other providers. Propellant slosh is a big deal. So if you have to open, right, and your propellant is sloshing and your vehicle starting to rotate because of it, then your second stage is going to be affected and could, you know, hit it. So I do kind of wonder a little bit if they're going to have any problems at all at any point, right? Maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, but I just wonder, is it a fail-proof kind of system, right?
And then your cargo goes out, and then you close the door. It's the same principle.
It's an awesome principle, or an awesome design principle, though, I have to say. Remember me and KSP fairing shenanigans? Yeah, 100%.
Can't wait to see the Hungry Hippo in action on Neutron's debut launch soon.
They really have to call it Hungry
back to
Hippo.
Today's
Ugh.
mission, and we would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to a new team member here at Rocket Lab in Mission Control. So meet Alex. He is an avid space fan who let the good folks at Make-A-Wish know
that's
that
awesome.
it was his dream to be able to see a rocket launch and to have a tour of our rocket factory. And we were only too happy to help make that happen. It's an honor to have Alex and his family joining us in Mission Control today for launch.
Cool.
Looking forward to it, Alex. All right, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. And as we approach,
They'll name one
T-minus 2
graboid.
minutes,
I hope so.
Electron
That's
will
better
enter
than
the
Hungry
auto
Hippo.
sequence and
The
vehicle
graboid
takes
fairing
over.
opens.
In those final few minutes, you'll hear the various call-outs from Mission
That's
Control.
Kiwi
The
humor for
final
you?
checks
Yeah, it's
and
true.
procedures
That is
are
true.
Completed for liftoff. Let's listen in for those calls now.
All right, 3 minutes. Which should be just about back from the ad break. All right, 3 minutes from launch for the third mission of the year for Rocket Labs.
Now, there should be no red flags on your critical LCCs, VCON, LD, and mission court.
LD VCON.
Is that a
VCON,
Russian
lock the
accent?
auto sequence and confirm.
Sounds like it, right?
Locked.
And VCON, confirm all flight computer ASCOs are green.
All flight computer ASCOs are green.
Some sort of Baltic accent.
Understood, thank you, VCON. We are called for auto sequence start at T-minus 2 minutes. LDs go for launch.
Cool. All right, just 2 minutes from flight here, chat. So this is a little guy. This is capable of only like 300 kilograms into orbit. The price tag for a Rocket Labs Electron is around $8 million.
FTS is green and enable for flight.
And of course, Rocket Labs has been working on what they were calling earlier Neutron, which is going to be the next large, fully reusable system. I say fully reusable. It's actually the first stage in fairings, just like SpaceX, so I guess technically partially reusable.
Box load is complete. System is in recirculation.
Nordic Italian, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. They need a fairing that opens up in 3 pedals, yeah, there you go. The vehicle should be in startup here. A little bit of pressure management there on the vent line that we saw. Venting in preparation for flight.
Anti-geysering is disabled.
All right, so what's awesome about Electron is that it does use electric turbopumps. So they have battery systems that actually operate the electric turbopumps instead of using like a gas generator or something. And we actually see that on the second stage where they do what's called a battery jettison. So because the second stage is really where your performance matters, once they deplete a set of batteries running their turbopump, they will jettison that and do what's known as a hot swap. So basically one battery system separates and then the second battery system immediately takes over and swaps over to that power system. And yet no solar panels. How do they run out of electricity? How do they not? Because it's a very short flight, right? It's about 8 minutes to orbit. First stage operates for like 2.5 minutes.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Ignition. Oh, great view. We got the drone footage going back. And there we go. We have liftoff. Liftoff of the QPS SAR mission for Electron, known as the Lightning God Reigns. Not rain, but reigns, like rules. Nice. That thing really yeets off the pad for a small launch vehicle. And what you'll notice here is that unlike Falcon 9, because this is such a small launch vehicle, only like 900 kilograms dry mass, only 300 kilograms of propellant, you'll see it be buffeted by the wind. You can already see it now, like the wind and the atmosphere and the different pressures and whatnot is kind of moving a little bit more than you might see Falcon 9.
As it propels IQPS's satellite towards orbit. Now, one of the next calls you'll hear from our operators is Max Q, and that's the point in flight when Electron experiences the highest aerodynamic loads. Let's listen in for that call.
Almost looks like it's shaking, indeed, yeah. Man, this thing really does heat off the pad. Already 12 kilometers in altitude. Oh, there you go. You see it kind of move around from the
Electron is continuing its way to space
from the atmospheric winds and wind shear and whatnot.
Electron is now at an altitude above 17 kilometers, traveling at speeds past 2,400 kilometers per hour.
There you can see the Rutherford engines on the first stage start to expand its rocket plume as it goes into lower ambient pressure.
A few seconds later, Electron's first and second stages separate.
Oh, look at that.
At this point, Stage 1's role in the mission is now complete.
This is also an RP-1 kerosene and liquid oxygen launch vehicle.
After separation, the single Rutherford engine on Stage 2 will ignite, and that will propel us the rest of the way to an elliptical transfer orbit. So watch closely to see all of this take place.
Is that Australia in the background? Because that's New Zealand. That's the Mahia Peninsula. Is that Australia mainland? It's not that far, right? I don't know where we are in the map, like which direction we're facing and whatnot.
15 seconds to staging.
No way. Yeah, I didn't think so.
Detect mode.
Would that be New Zealand mainland then? Australia has snow? That's not snow. That's clouds. I think. Pretty sure that's clouds. That's still New Zealand? Okay.
Confirmed.
Oh, good second stage shot.
Stage separation confirmed.
Easy engine ignition. And what you're seeing, I think this is, if I remember correctly from the camera view, this should be one of the battery packs that will be jettisoned.
That sequence of milestones is now complete.
Oh, there we go. Now we can see it better from this camera angle. Okay, there we go. Yes. Very good. Yes. New Zealand mainland. Just the other camera angle, which was oriented on the other side of the rocket, just made it look weird.
IQPS satellite to space for the very first time. Those fairings, like the rest of Electron's structure, are made from carbon composite, so they're incredibly lightweight, but also strong. It's why we're making Neutron's fairings.
So stand by for fairing set.
But
it's already 120 kilometers in altitude.
Neutrons will stay attached to the vehicle for landing.
Oh, and look at this, chat. You can actually see the ridges here in the, oh, there goes fairing set. And there you can see the SAR satellite deployment system. So this is like a gigantic array for a SAR satellite. It basically unfurls into a big, gigantic circular dish. Very cool to see it all, you know, cramped up in its folded origami position. What I was saying here is you can actually see the 3D printed lines from the expansion nozzle here. See those grooves, those very, very small grooves? This thing is centered.
Comes to launching rockets.
3D printed with metal.
Don't just build, then fly.
You're just here for the battery eat? Hey, fair enough.
To ensure mission success. For new parts, we start with development testing, followed by design qualification, or qual. Qual testing stresses the design far beyond expected conditions it would endure for a nominal mission, with vibration, shock, thermal cycling, and thermal vacuum, or TVAC, being a handful of test examples conducted. Next up is acceptance testing, intended for real flight article hardware. These tests are typically less harsh on components versus qual as to not fatigue them. After all, these are being used on actual mission. The aim is to catch workmanship issues and performance variances. For Neutron,
pretty good description of the verification and validation process for any sort of engineering.
Levels from the more powerful Archimedes engines.
Looks like it's puffing.
Individual components in
Technically it is. It's what you're seeing there, all the sparks coming out of the vehicle is from coking. So it's little bits of unburnt carbon, like solid carbon being flown out of the engine, because this is an RP-1 that locks upper stage. So you're literally seeing unburnt carbon just being jettisoned out of the nozzle.
On your screen, and next we are getting ready to hear some of our 4 favorite words: battery hot swap.
The black square, yeah, I believe it is.
That will mean that we have reached the point in flight when the depleted batteries that power Rutherford's electric fuel pumps are ejected.
It's wrapped in thermal blankets, indeed.
We then immediately swap over to a fresh set of batteries to get us to the rest of the way to orbit. And that's why we call it a hot swap, since it happens while the engine run is still underway.
Love the payload, the payload bay shot.
You should also
this is what I was saying. This is the actual SAR system up here. It's like a gigantic dish, and you can kind of see each one of these individual segments will kind of open up. It'll basically be like a flower and open up into a gigantic circular dish.
Hot swap in roughly 30 seconds.
All right, 30 seconds until hot swap at around 6:30. Yeah, I saw that. The Earth was reflected indeed. Okay, should be able to watch here the yeet of the battery.
Throttling down.
Throttling down in preparation for battery yeet. And maximize battery yeeting. Don't blink. There goes. There goes the other one down there too. Yeah, so there's 2 on each side to make sure that the center of mass stays aligned, of course.
Okay, in the eternal words of InSync, we have said bye, bye, bye to those batteries. A fresh set has taken over with just a few minutes now remaining in the flight. And the average orbital Electron mission takes around 9 minutes to reach orbit, which means across more than 60 missions, we have spent more than 9 hours capturing views like this one on our multiple journeys to space. And still, I tell you what, it's a view.
I'm a little behind. Is this going to bring back the stranded astronauts? Yeah, that was just, that happened like an hour earlier. This is a different launch. Sorry, I didn't see your post-keen bop in time. Yeah, we covered that launch already. That happened starting at around 5 p.m. Mountain Time, literally an hour ago, exactly an hour ago.
In preparation for payload deployment.
Yeah, they just yeeted the astronaut SpaceX. This is Rocket Lab.
Electron's nozzle glow brightly before shutdown.
Yeah, and yeah, technically it's not, they're not, yeah, the stranded, I saw the stranded in quotes. They're not stranded. They're just being relieved of their duty.
47 seconds and counting, and everything is proceeding nominally so far. The operators in mission control continue to monitor vehicle systems closely as we approach that all-important throttle down and the second engine.
So Thailand, the batteries are there because they use the batteries to run their turbopumps. The turbopumps do not have a preburner or a gas generator like typical rocket engine cycles have. Like Falcon 9's Merlin 1D engines, right? Use part of their fuel to basically burn that fuel in a gas generator to then spin the turbine to spin the turbopump. For Rocket Labs, because their system is so small and lightweight, they don't have to have that to simplify the engine. They just use a big battery to power their turbopumps. And then because the batteries will deplete, why not jettison that dead battery, right? So yeah, it's a totally different design process for smaller systems like this. And why not have an alternator? Because, well, that is just more complex. More complex and probably heavier, believe it or not. Maybe not heavier, because batteries are pretty heavy, but
Seco confirmed.
There's Seco. Vehicle's in orbit. 27,000 kilometers an hour. Will we see SEP? I think we will see SEP.
The second stage engine has shut down as planned, and the kick stage is now separated to continue the rest of its
Encase it in Inconel
deployment.
so it can survive
the kick
re-entry.
stage will enjoy a gentle coast around Earth before it reaches its apogee, which is the highest point in its orbit. At that time, the 3D printed Curie engine on the kick stage will ignite and then raise the orbit to a circular one at 500
more moving parts for sure.
kilometers above Earth's surface.
It would be interesting to think though, like, would an alternator style of rocket engine? Well, you know, technically speaking, I don't think any rocket engine today actually technically has an alternator, right? Like, we're talking about like an alternator to recharge. That's great for KSP, but technically speaking, there is not a rocket engine, to my knowledge, that is in existence today that actually generates its own electric power. So yeah, that's actually not really a thing. It's in KSP, but not really a thing here in real life. This is from 2023. This is the previous IQPS mission. Nice. Oh, another great shot. Oh, those shots are always great.
So on that mission,
From like
moon
the inner
god
stage on second
awakened,
stage SEP.
but today it is the lightning god's turn. And remember, today is launch number 2 of a total of 9 booked by IQPS on Electron. So
Yeah,
many
IQPS
more views
wants
like that one are coming up in the
36
next
in their
few months and
constellation.
years.
And I think they are looking for 9 from Rocket Labs right now.
We'll be back with you in just a jiffy.
All right. Well, we'll chill out here while we wait. While we wait for confirmation of a good separation. I hope we get maybe a picture, but I don't know if we will. Maybe we'll get a picture from that view that we saw if they actually separate it when they're over a ground station. Because right now they're basically starting to get out of line for their ground station communications, but we'll have to see. I like how Rocket Labs improved their production value on their orbital map view. Because if you guys remember, they used to use, what is that free open source software that allows you to track spacecraft? Oh gosh, I don't remember what it's called. I'm gonna probably mute this and do my own music just to make sure the VOD doesn't get muted. So yeah, we'll go with that, I think. I think we'll do that. Free open source orbital simulation software. I don't remember what it was called, but it's what they used to it's what they used to just show, like the actual open source tool as part of this visualization. It's on GitHub, but I just don't remember what it was called. Not Free Flyer, not GMAT. Gosh dang it. It's gonna bother me now, chat. It's gonna bother me. Oh well. If anybody knows it off the top of your head, feel free to let me know, but yeah, so what they used, so it was basically what their tool was in-house to like show their ground station comms and where they were with respect to the ground stations, and they just showed that UI from that tool, which was cool. But now we actually get much higher fidelity visuals, I guess, of Earth and everything, and of their communication links. All right, so yeah, now we just kind of chill, chat. We chill until they do their Curie burn, and then they do their payload deployment. Remember, this is launching one 100 kilogram satellite. Just use STK? I mean, yeah, you pretty much could. It used to be called Satellite Toolkit. What is it called now? Is it just called Systems Toolkit? But yeah, all that costs money. Ew. Like SDK is for a license is thousands of dollars, isn't it? Same with Free Flyer. Free Flyer is another one that's similar to SDK, but it's also like, I think it's actually cheaper than SDK, but not by much. But yeah, for like a commercial license, it's like thousands of dollars, of course, for those types of tools. But there are a few like free open source tools that are used, like what Rocket Labs used to show. I just don't remember what it was called. So yeah, I wonder, I don't think they said how long, I mean, they probably did say how long their overall flight mission timeline was. All right, Terrace, sounds good. Have a good rest of your afternoon and evening. Catch you back in a little while. But yeah, so just kind of in the dead air time as we wait for the separation event, the Curie burn. So Curie, right, what's really cool is Rocket Labs has, over the course of probably like the last 5 years, acquired numerous commercial companies that develop different components for satellites, and they have now, Rocket Labs has started building their own satellites in-house. They did it and started with what they're calling their Photon upper stage, right? Which is basically their kick stage right here, but they've also turned that into their own satellite platform, and they've actually used it as a satellite platform. And what a good segue, Rocket Guy. It's also shown here. It is launching later this evening, or I should say very early tomorrow morning, on the transporter mission. This vehicle right here, they were actually talking about it at the beginning of stream, is known as the Winnebago 3 mission, also known as the Pioneer 3 mission. Winnebago is built by Varda. Varda is developing in-space manufacturing equipment that can be returned to Earth. So this is a gigantic sphere cone, sphere cone that has heat shields on it, right? And it's designed to separate from the Photon vehicle that is built by Rocket Labs, separate from it and re-enter the atmosphere and come back down to Earth. It lands in Australia, in like the middle of the Australian desert. So yeah, this is something that Varda developed, and then this right here is that system that SpaceX has acquired, and they basically develop it using all all Rocket Lab acquired and built systems. So like one of the first companies that Rocket Lab acquired was a company called Sinclair Interplanetary, and they were a very well-known, reputable vendor for like all different sized reaction wheels. So reaction wheels for large spacecraft, reaction wheels for small spacecraft. They acquired them, and now Rocket Labs is mass producing reaction wheels that they can sell to other commercial vendors and providers as a vendor themselves. And they're using it to build their own in-house systems as well, which is pretty awesome. They also acquired a solar panel provider as well, so that way they can build their own solar panels in-house, which is, by the way, super smart, because solar panels are ridiculously expensive in the aerospace industry, like one of the more expensive components in a satellite system, let alone your propulsion, of course, and your attitude control system. And then I think they also recently acquired a communications provider. So they're building their own communication, their own radios in-house in order to communicate with ground stations and whatnot. So they're very slowly just completely acquiring all of these different capabilities to develop their own in-house systems. And then, as we called here on stream a couple of weeks ago, when we covered the space news segment that we did, if you guys remember, Rocket Labs recently came out with the Flatellite design, what they're calling a Flatellite, and they touted it as trying to be able to have a stackable satellite bus for high-speed internet connectivity. We called it on stream. I said that we had to have been because they have a commercial company that they're trying to partner with to provide internet connectivity similar to Starlink that SpaceX provides. And literally like 2 days ago, Rocket Labs came out saying that they have partnered with Viasat in order to provide that internet connectivity, and they're going to be partnering with them to develop these satellites for, a large constellation of these internet connectivity sats. So yeah, like Rocket Labs is looking great. They're basically SpaceX, but on the smaller scale. Like they want to do a lot. And then of course we know that Rocket Labs is looking to, get a bid in on the Mars sample return missions. It's just crazy. It's just crazy what Rocket Labs is looking to do. So, but yeah, so this is coming from the transporter mission. If you guys have been following, that transporter mission is in like 6 to 7 hours from now. So yeah, we'll be covering that eventually as well. Well, we'll be covering that here too. What actual time is that launch? 11:39 p.m. Pacific. So that's 12:39 p.m. Mountain Time, my time, 6:39 UTC. So yeah, that is in 6 hours from now. So pretty good. Like I said, Rocket Labs is definitely one to watch. They have Neutron that's coming up. Neutron, by the way, Chad, is set to launch this year, debut. So there's that. I don't know if you guys, I covered this in our space news segment earlier this week as well, that if you guys remember, there was a big stink about like in some sort of reporting. I don't remember who started the report, but essentially there was, in order for them to, they're building a new pad at Wallops for Neutron, right? Wallops, Virginia. They're building a pad there in order to be able to fly Neutron on American soil. They're building a new pad out there, and it requires water, obviously, for like water deluge, for, all sorts of different operations. And they were having trouble installing, basically connecting water. And there was a big environmental review saying that they didn't have any potable water on site, saying that this would delay their launch capabilities of Neutron until like 2027. Literally in the last Rocket Lab, like executive day, where because Rocket Labs is a publicly traded company, right? They have investor days, if you will, that give their quarterly reports. Literally, Peter Beck was saying, yeah, that's totally not true. We have water and we're launching this year. So yeah, Rocket Labs has been on it. So hopefully we can certainly see later this year their debut of their new system, their brand new Neutron. We'll see if it flies. Is it not getting quite scary for Kessler Syndrome? How many more will be competing? Kessler Syndrome, I think is, so Kessler Syndrome in general is just that more space debris, leads to more space debris. And so that's very, very true. But in general, is it a problem? Still not for quite some time, at least in my opinion. Yes, it's something that we should be both proactive and reactive to. In fact, the industry is already doing that, right? We have, I think, like $7 billion a year going to aerospace companies working on debris mitigation. They're mainly focusing on the reactive side, meaning that, hey, if there's a piece of space debris that we know about, send something to go and get it and deorbit it. But there's also like one or two that's looking at a proactive side, which is, try to avoid it going into debris in the first place. Whether it's a satellite that can be refueled or a satellite that can have a component replaced or, things of that nature. Not only that, but there's new policies coming into purview as well that say that any low Earth orbiting satellite has to be able to re-enter the atmosphere within, I think, 7 years of its last operation, which is better. 7 years, of course, is a long time, but in the grand view of space operations, it's actually not. And so that's a new policy that's being rolled out that is a requirement for all new space systems to be able to actively deorbit within 7 years of their last operations. So, we are doing things to prevent worse Kessler Syndrome. I think we're still very far away from it being an actual problem, like a problem, meaning that, there is life at stake and things like that. But we'll have to see. Is it a problem? Yes. Is it a big problem right now? Thankfully, no. I think we still got a lot of time, even with SpaceX already managing over 8,000 satellites in low Earth orbit. space is huge, right? Like the circumference of the Earth is 20,000 miles, right? So even if you go like 500, what would be like 300 miles that way, like that only expands that by you know, so much more. So, you know, there's still, even if we have what we do, even though we have like, you know, 100,000 pieces of debris and active satellites and all that jazz in orbit right now, it's, you know, the space between them is so few and far between. So yeah, like I said, in short, is it a problem? Yeah. Is it a big problem? No, not really. There's already a big backlog of missions that actually don't get flown every year as it is. So honestly, I'm kind of for more launch providers coming online. And we're starting to see that, right? Like Dawn Aerospace has been developing their test article for a fully reusable launch vehicle, which is pretty awesome. We of course have Starship, which is looking to eventually be able to send up, you know, 100 metric tons of satellites into low Earth orbit. We have these rideshare transporter missions that we've been talking about. We have Rocket Labs. We have with Neutron, which can do more. Yeah, I think in the long run that's only good, but we definitely have to keep it in our own mindset that we do have to make sure that we tidy up space as we go if we can. It will eventually be a bigger thing. Yeah, exactly. It will eventually be a bigger issue. And hopefully with these new policies and technologies being developed specifically to mitigate space debris, that it actually will never become an issue, right? That's the hope anyways. Like we already have policies in place to make sure that our upper stages come back. There are still upper stages in orbit from like, you know, 40 years ago. So now we have basically to make sure that all of our upper stages come back, or they at least go into a very known, like what's known as a graveyard orbit, so they stay there with other space debris and should never be worried about. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot happening in the industry to try and mitigate the impacts of space debris, both from like I said, a reactive side and a proactive side. Unfortunately, my biggest qualm is that there's way more reactive technology being developed for space debris. So reactive again is like, hey, there's already a piece of space debris here, you know, go and like deorbit it or move it somewhere and whatnot, versus active, or I should say proactive response to space debris, which is like, let's see what we can do to not have this turn into space debris eventually. But all in due time, I suppose. All in due time. All right, we're looking good. Probably about another 20-ish minutes to go in this here waiting period, as they basically fly around to the other side of their orbit in order to do their Curie burn to circularize before deploying their payload. I love that they play Everyday Astronaut. I think that's so cool. Good for Tim Dodds for getting his music out there and developing music and allowing, you know, streams to be able to use it, so long as they give credit and whatnot. But yeah, for this upcoming mission that we have tonight on part of the transporter missions, we actually have another SAR payload going up as well. Let's see if we can find some of that information here. I want to say it's called the DSAR Transporter 13. So there is Transporter 13, Transporter 13, Transporter 13. I know that there is a company from actually South Korea is who it's for. Oh, hey, look, it's me. Yeah, these are all the payloads that are set to go up today. Let's see who else is out there. I was thinking there was a SAR satellite. Oh my god, if I could type, that'd be great. But yeah, so SAR satellites, like I said, is basically a type of Earth observation sensor that gives you a really, really good high resolution depth of field. So very similar to radar. Of course, radar probably wouldn't work very well in space from that far away unless you had a massive amount of power and all that. SAR is able to provide that sort of depth, so you can get the topographical information that like hyperspectral images and otherwise, you know, light-based camera systems can't give you very well. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool technology. Nope, don't see any of the SAR payloads here, unfortunately. But we might be able to see it from this mission here. So IQPS SAR satellites. Let's see what we got here. Ah, yes, there it is. Oh, and of course it's all blurred out. It's all blurred out. But yeah, this is the mission that's going up here today, like what we're watching right now. So this is the Photon, right? This is the Photon kick stage. It's basically just a small upper stage designed to be the last mile delivery system. It's a kick stage, basically take it from its initial drop-off point in low Earth orbit and then kick the orbit into whatever predetermined need for the customer satellite is. But yeah, this is what we're looking at here as part of the payload. There you can actually, I think, see the camera system. So the camera system that we see in the live stream is looking up this way. And then there is that dish. So that dish, like I said, has all of these individual pieces that, you know, right now it's all folded up, and then eventually it'll all just spread out into a gigantic, you know, very, very large dish relative to the size of the satellite, which is really, really cool. And you have to do that because the way these SAR satellites work from a very, very high level, to my knowledge, is like the farther the dish is, the better spatial reasoning, the better spatial knowledge you can get from the sensor, right? It's almost like our eyes. The reason why we have a field of view, a depth field of view, you know, we can actually see how far something is with our brain, is because we have two eyes separated a certain distance that give us that stereo optical effect. So it's a little bit different here, obviously working with SAR and not necessarily stereo optics, but overall I think the premise is the same. So the larger your system is, the better high resolution you can get of your depth of field and things of that nature. But yeah, very, very cool cool payload. Let's see. Oh, this is actually the mission I was talking about. Here we go. Yeah, synthetic aperture radar flying on the it's called the Etihad sat from UAE. So UAE partnered with a satellite provider in South Korea to develop their own SAR payload. So I don't think they're in this picture to my knowledge, but this is their vehicle. And so for them, instead of having a big circular dish that expands, they have these two wings, one on each side, that actually unfolds and basically looks like gigantic solar array, but it's SAR satellites. So it's a big array of SAR sensors. So that's how they are able to do it as well. So it's just a different way of doing it. Yeah, see? So they have their solar panels on the top side here, of course, for power generation, but then they have their SAR panel, which is a big array of SAR sensors for developing that depth field of view information. Yep, there you go. That's a pretty good render of it, I think. But yeah, that's again going tonight on the transporter mission. Let's see, any other pictures of the actual IQPS satellite? We're just getting this one, so maybe not. Up there, yeah, there you go. That's basically what it's going to look like, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, just like gigantic inflatable. It almost reminds me of the inflatable antenna that we have in KSP, right? There you go. So all of these different stringers here are basically what we see all folded in and crunched together right now. So cool indeed. Indeed. So we still got quite a bit of time here on the coast period. Yep, so here we go. This is what QPS wants to do. Basically an entire, they said 36, I think. 36 satellites capable of SAR imagery. So they're going to have 36 of these satellites in low Earth orbit. Not bad, not bad. Oh, there we go. Nice. Is that an actual image of it? Silicon sensing inertial measurement technology to equip first small SAR satellite from IQPS. Nice. I think that's actually a picture of one of them, or maybe like a mock-up. You can still see part of it is what do you call it, blurred out, so that we don't see any of the proprietary information that they want to keep hushity hush. But yeah, there you go. There you go, right there. Yep, we sit and we wait, chat. Hopefully it won't be too much longer. Like I said, it'll probably be around the 50-minute mark. Still got another 15 minutes or so to chill. But yeah, so after this, let's actually look at our upcoming launch time frame as well, right? So this is where we are now. We have Electron and Curie, the lightning god reigns. This is the mission that we're following now. We also have the Transporter 13 mission flying out of Vandenberg here if the launch sticks at 12:39 a.m. Mountain Time. So that should be the good one. It's flying 74 payloads into space, which is absolutely crazy. And then of course, what's actually really cool is we have another Angara mission, chat. I don't know when the last Angara mission has been. Angara is a Roscosmos led rocket. Angara missions. Do we have a list? I think we do, right? Does this have a list of launches? So Angara is one of those rockets that I actually really like because it's supposed to be like fully modular. It comes in different variants. It comes in like a 2-stick configuration, a single stick configuration, a 3-stick configuration, and a 4-stick configuration, and a 5-stick configuration. Basically, it has all these common boosters that is able to, you know, increase the thrust and increase the capability. So here you can see one of them that has a what looks to be a 6-core design. So 1 in the center and 5 around the outside for like a heavy lift. There's Proton in the middle. Then you have Angara with a 4-stick configuration, or maybe that's a 5-stick configuration, 4 common core boosters, and then 3, and then 1. Yeah, like I said, it's a very cool, like, modular style of design. The only problem is, though, that it doesn't launch a lot. It doesn't launch a lot at all. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's see. So launches to date. So beginning in 2020, as of 2014, plans called for it to be launched from the Stochny Cosmodrome. Let's see here. So we have 1 in 2014, 2 in 2014, and then none for 6 years, chat. 6 years. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've had 8 launches so far of Angara. So like I said, I really like the design of it. I do definitely wish it launched more, but apparently we have an Angara mission coming out tonight. I don't see it here on the on the launch list, but the last one was in September of last year apparently. So that's cool. Interdesting, chat. Interdesting. We've had a partial failure, another failure. It's actually done pretty good though, overall. For not launching a lot, it's actually only had 1 partial failure. And was that even its fault? Partial failure. First flight test of the upper stage, a Block DM-03 upper stage variant for Angara. Last of the 3 demonstration flights planned. Upper stage failed to restart for second burn, leaving upper stage and payload in low Earth orbit. They decayed from orbit in fortnight. Great, gross, unfortunate. But I think that was like I don't think this was its fault. Maiden flight of Angara 1.2. No orbit raising activities were detected following deployment, indicating a possible spacecraft failure. So that's not an Angara failure. Overall, like it's been good. I just wish it launched more, you know. Just wish it launched more. But yeah, so apparently going back to our information here, that's going to be at 4:50 a.m. Mountain Time. I'm not probably going to stream that. I don't think I'm going to stream Starlink either, which is unfortunate. Then we have another Electron mission from Rocket Lab, the same mission that the same launch vehicle provider and launch vehicle we're watching now. That's going to be flying on Monday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So I'll be covering that launch. That's within our normal stream time. Another Starlink satellite Tuesday. Oh, man, chat, like it just doesn't stop, which is a good thing. But also, whew, goodbye KSP, I guess. Another Starlink mission. I really am interested of seeing this flight, Spectrum, from ESAR Aerospace. ESAR Aerospace, you guys don't know, is an up-and-coming provider. Yeah, they're from Germany, I believe. Yeah, look at that. So yeah, EU, European Union, definitely getting their own launch capabilities. So this is flying out of Norway, I think I saw, right? Yeah, delivering European commercial space push. How big is their system, Spectrum? I actually need to know that. 2-stage orbital launch vehicle. 1,000 kilograms to LEO. That's not a small amount for you know, basically you know, Europe only has Ariane Group essentially for their launch vehicle provider, and they fly out of Kourou mostly in South America. So having like an actual system that can launch from European grounds is actually going to be pretty good, and for 1 ton, like that's pretty dang good actually, chat. 2-meter vehicle diameter. Yeah, definitely need to get more knowledge on this system. High pressure turbopump engines ensure superior development, of course. Liquid oxygen and propane. Look at that. Excellent. Propane. Good to see another fuel type being used. I like it. Clean propulsion. These propellants offer highest density specific impulse of all carbon-based fuels. Very nice. Yeah, I'm happy with that, chat. I'm definitely happy with that. Let's see, what other technology do they have? I want to see more information about their engines, though. Do they have information about their engines, though? About a Spectrum. They talked about their engines for a second, but I didn't see like a separate page dedicated to it, which is kind of unfortunate. I really want to learn more about their engine capabilities. Payload users guide. No? All right, fair enough. But yeah, that's ESAR Aerospace coming up here momentarily. Net March. Like I said, I haven't really heard anything about them, so I don't know if March will stick, but hopefully. You know, another Rocket Labs? What's Dart AE? That's also supposed to launch in March. A 3-meter long single-use high-temperature alloy hydrogen-fueled scramjet technology demonstrator. I forgot about this. Last year, Rocket Labs did announce they were going to start using versions of Electron for atmospheric tests. Right? You basically have an orbital launch vehicle that could actually just take more payload and go on a suborbital launch with like a hypersonic test bed. That's actually really cool. So that's what this one was. I forgot about that. Yeah, the HASTE rocket. HASTE is the yeah, that's right. I remember them talking about this. Will safely bring Dart AE to its initial operating speed, allowing Dart AE to demonstrate its non-ballistic flight patterns, acceleration, flexible engine burns up to 1,000-kilometer range. That's cool. Yeah, HASTE stood for like, you know, hypersonic spacecraft test, unless they have it mentioned elsewhere. Yeah, part of Rocket Lab's HASTE program. That's cool. That's cool seeing that. It'll be flying out of Wallops. Hey, what's up, Andy? How are you doing? Yeah, Rocket Labs, HASTE. HASTE, yeah, what do we see? Hypersonic Accelerator Suborbital Test Electron, part of their HASTE, yes, indeed. 700 kilogram payload mass. Yeah, like I said, if you want to go orbital, Electron can only carry about 300 kilograms max. Going into low Earth orbit. So of course, because they're not going orbital and they're doing an atmospheric demonstration, they can take much more, double the amount actually, more than double. So that's really cool. From idea to launch within 12 months, that's still slow, but okay. Not slow for aerospace standards, I guess, but it's still slow overall. Let's see here, what do we have? From air breathing and glide payloads to ballistic and future technologies, HASTE is a cost-effective and responsive hypersonic test bed. So yeah, you see that? Different test apparatuses, I guess. They can go lofted, different trajectories they can fly. Yeah, it's cool. Like I said, I remember them talking about their HASTE missions based standing for Hypersonic Accelerator Suborbital Test Electron. That's cool. We have that first one coming up ideally within the next couple of months, hopefully even less than in the next couple of months. So fair enough. That is not the droid I'm looking for. There we go. Let's make sure we are caught up here. Go to two times time warp. When will we start seeing Starship Cape stack testing? I don't know. I don't know their specific timeline. I know they just recently came out with more plans to develop mega bays at Cape Canaveral. But I don't know how long it's going to take them to develop that. And I don't know if they necessarily even need that to start stack testing. Like that's going to be what they need for like high cadence stacking and testing and launching from the Cape. But I don't know if they're going to be building their big mega bay there. Actually what they call, I think, the Giga Bay. I think they're planning on building the Giga Bay. I don't know if they need the Giga Bay to start stacking and testing Starship operations at the Cape. I don't know. Haven't heard anything about that. All right, should be ideally maybe no more than another 10 minutes here on the coast. We're coming over acquisition. Where is that acquisition coming from, actually? It looks like Portugal, Spain? And then one in the center there. What island is that? The island of Man? My geography chat. I need to brush up on my geography. Ah, no, that's not. What is that? What are those tiny little islands? Oh, the Azores. Ah, yes, of course, the Azores. Should have known that. Yeah, the Azore Islands. Right here. So next up, we should have the Curie burn, which is the name of the engine that is used on the kick stage, the photon kick stage there. Basically the third stage of Electron that's currently carrying the SAR payload or the SAR satellite to its final destination. So if you were wondering, because we were talking about it earlier, like how a SAR system actually operates. So the reason why you need like that big dish, right, is because essentially how a SAR payload or a SAR system works is it actually sends out microwaves. Those microwaves, of course, are sent all the way down to the surface of the Earth. They use a certain like spectrum of microwaves so that way it can penetrate the clouds and different atmospheric particles and whatnot, like oxygen and carbon dioxide and all that sort of stuff, right? And those microwaves will then bounce off of anything, whether that is, you know, trees, it could be planes, it can be literally anything that those microwaves will go and deflect off of. And it comes back to the satellite and it has that big dish. So that way it can receive those signals and understand how it has reflected off of whatever it's hit. And that gives you that sort of like spatial depth image, that spatial information that gives you, you know, really, really high resolution topographical information, which is really cool. Yeah, so SAR systems, very, very cool technology. They're kind of going everywhere now. Like I said, we have IQPS alone looking to do 36 in a constellation. We also have one going on a transporter mission coming up later this evening. That is being built as part of UAE. UAE is trying to get into SAR satellite systems. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot in the United States as well. There's a few working on SAR payloads for high resolution imagery for Earth observation. So it's cool. It's cool seeing all of this tech coming online. And now we have the launch capabilities to sustain that sort of commercial economy. But it's still wild. Like I said, even though SpaceX has flown 30 missions, only 10 of them have been like commercial payloads. or like commercial missions. So there's still technically a big backlog in launches for the entire commercial industry. I think I read somewhere that there are still like 200 payloads, like some ridiculous amount, like 200 payloads a year from just the DoD alone and their different DoD programs for not being able to fly a payload on a system, on like a bus, on a satellite. That just goes to show you, like, I think there's still a lot of room for the space industry to grow. From a lot of projections, I think the space industry is still on track to meet like a $1 trillion industry by like 2030. At least I know that was the estimation from like a year or two ago. So we'll have to see, but it is definitely growing, bolstered by the new launch capabilities and the new launch cadences that can be achieved. That's all, of course, driving down costs as new launch providers get on scene and they get their increase in not only payload capacity, but number of launches per year. Because remember, this is the 3rd mission from Rocket Labs. They're on track to get 1 mission a month, which actually, in terms of like launch industry, is really good. I don't remember what it was, but there was a, you know what? We actually might be able to find the Bryce Tech space report. Let's see. Bryce Tech report. So if you don't know Bryce Tech, they do a lot of space industry focused reports, like every year. So here you can see the global space launch activity in 2024. Let's see what that does. Commercial providers accounted for about 70% of launches. Nearly 60% of all launches were conducted by the US providers. One guess how, who did that? Small satellites, primarily for communications, were the majority of all spacecraft launched at 97%. I wonder who skews that a little bit. Who might skew that just a tad? So here you go. This is what I wanted to talk about, right? So total orbital launches by type. About 70% of orbital launches were conducted by commercial providers. 259 total orbital launches in just last year, 2024. That's 2,873 spacecraft launched. So we can compare this year, right, to, I don't know, let's see, that's going to be 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. So like even just a decade ago, that number was only 80, like what, 80, maybe not even, if that's going to be 84 and 36, yeah, like 80 maybe total in the entire world from just 10 years ago for the number of launches occurring. I guess crazy. That's crazy. We're at 259 just this year, or this past year. What are we looking at? Information about the launch cadence that we're seeing. Oh, they are back.
And for the call from Mission Control.
So we're back for the Curie burn from Rocket Labs. But yeah, I was interested in how many launches were occurring just like a decade ago, just to show the growth in the launch industry. And we've about tripled it in just a decade, which is crazy. Oh, it was black. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yes. I forgot I was full screen. Apologies.
Confirmed.
I will recycle it and show y'all again. No website, yeah. Sorry, I forgot I was on game or window capture mode and not monitor.
That's the call out for a successful Curie engine ignition.
There's the Curie
This burn
engine.
will last for around
Look at that
2.5
guy.
minutes before the engine shuts down for payload deployment.
Now, Curie
I do
is
hope we
small
get a
and
payload
great for missions in LEO or
deployment
GEO, but
image.
Back in 2020, we began developing an interplanetary variant of Curie called Hyper Curie. And in 2022, we sent it all the way to the moon on our capstone mission. And this unit we have here is the qualification unit for the Hyper Curie
Look at that.
engine. So you can see the size difference between our regular Curie and this one.
Regular
Hyper
Curie,
Curie has about 4
interplanetary
times the
transfer
thrust of
Curie.
and is optimized for maximum performance, whereas this little guy is optimized for mass production. Curie is pressure fed, but Hyper Curie is electrically pump fed.
Oh, nice.
Much like our Rutherford engines, and also our proposed Mars Ascent vehicle engine for the Mars Sample Return Project.
Of course. How about that? They're still just kind of slipping it in there. Just, Mars sample return. Mars sample return. It's just like, here's the little a little nudge to the public. Get us the Mars sample return mission, please. I was really hoping we'd have some images, because it looked like it was over, last I saw, over a communications array, over a ground station. But I don't see anything in the background unless this is live. Hard to tell. I know. I think those are all pictures, right? On the outside. I don't see any like reflections of screens that might be showing a good view of the live event. Kind of a bummer. Unless they just don't have cameras. Well, we do know they have an onboard camera, but they just might not be streaming from the vehicle at that point.
Curie cutoff confirmed.
Okay. Curie cutoff confirmed.
Nominal final orbit achieved.
Nominal final orbit. Very good. Come on, show the payload deployment. They know how to keep secrecy, yeah.
Is confirmed. All that remains now is deployment of IQPS's satellite, and that's Electron's mission complete.
Oh, oh no. Okay, fine. The good old simulation. All right, because I don't know what this music is and I don't want the VOD to get muted, I'm gonna mute there and put my own music. Should be payload deploy. Man, I was hoping. Oh wow, that. I don't know if the jettison in real life is that fast, but you know, hey, fair enough. Fair enough. Jettison's usually not that powerful. Usually it's a very slow push. Ah, nice mission patch. Cool. Yeah, I don't see any images on the monitors reflecting in the screen in the background, so I guess they didn't have video at the time. Yeah, the Mach 1 jet, indeed.
Don't forget, if you want to join the team that's making big things happen in
They're hiring, chat. That's right.
RocketLabUSA.com and check out the careers page.
There we go. Very nice. Very good. Very good. So what I was showing beforehand, chat, was Bablam. Nope, not that. That was my screen, my background. There we go. This. So if you guys don't know, Bryce Tech Space Reports, BryceTech.com. Every year they do numerous reports of the aerospace industry and other industries for that matter. But they do focus a lot on the global space economy, the number of orbital launches, and things of that nature, right? So what I was showing was this one, the global space launch activity in 2024. And if we go down here, we can see just the number of launches in 2024 from a decade earlier. From a decade earlier, we were sitting at like 70 launches a year, and now we're sitting at 259 launches a year globally, which is honestly kind of crazy, the amount of growth, right? Yeah, 134 launches from SpaceX alone, 2 off of their proposed number of launches they would achieve. China had 48, Russia had 17, Rocket Labs had 14. They were better than one launch a month, which is pretty awesome. ULA, Mitsubishi, Galactic Energy, X-Space, they all had 5 launches under their belt, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, Ariane Group had 3. There you go. Interesting. I actually thought Ariane Group had more than that, but no, they just had 3. But yeah, as you can see, SpaceX launched 2,390 spacecraft. 2,390 spacecraft. Absolutely wild. Oh man, United Launch Alliance had 8. But yeah, just SpaceX at 2,390. That's what you can do when you just are your own customer, right? Like SpaceX is their own best customer. SpaceX launches like 2/3 of their overall launches per year on Starlink. Just massive. massive amount of capabilities. 2 million kilograms. That's, or no, I'm sorry, 1.8 million kilograms into orbit. I mean, yeah, it's just kind of crazy to see the actual amount of growth in the aerospace industry. And so what I was saying earlier is that, you know, it's currently projected, at least I think it is still projected and on track to achieve a $1 trillion aerospace industry by 2030. Right now, I think it's sitting at around 400 billion. And believe it or not, the launch market is only like 10 to 20 billion dollars of that entire $400 billion industry. Like, launch is still very, very small because they're still launching so few, right? Like, even SpaceX right now has 30 launches under their belt, but guess what? Only 10 of them are commercial customer provided. Otherwise, they are their own customer for Starlink missions. But yeah, so there's definitely still a lot of room for the industry, for the launch industry to grow, because there's still numerous amounts of satellites and payloads being developed for different scientific missions and different commercial service provider. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? They can launch crazy because every year that goes up. Yeah, like this year alone, SpaceX wants to launch 170. That's their goal. 170. They've already launched 30. I think still, according to the launch manifest, they want to like be at like 35 or 36, so 5 more launches before the next 2 weeks. Absolutely crazy. They can launch 90 and refurb in 30 to 50 days. Yep, pretty much. Starlink is a money cow. Who thought sats was going to be so much money? Well, you know, internet connectivity, right? Like, basically what they want to do is what Verizon did. Right? What Verizon did was just come in and swoop up the entire cellular market. And now SpaceX wants to do that, but for internet connectivity. And why not? It is a multi-billion-dollar industry, tens of billions of dollar industry. Actually, do they show the number of communication providers, but I don't think they show on this report. Orbital launch sites. They show it in another one. The actual that's future heavy lift market, emerging industrial for lunar activities, small sat by the numbers. I think it's this one that I want. The 2023. Whoops. The 2023 global space economy. There's the numbers you're looking for. These are the numbers we're looking for, chat. So yeah, for satellite ground equipment alone. So this is like all of your like test vacuum chambers, all of your test equipment for space qualification. This, of course, is for your ground station service providers, $145 billion. And remember, this is $384 billion as of 2 years ago. So now it's probably over. I don't know what the CAGR is. I wonder what the CAGR is for the space economy. Does it say here? No, it does not. CAGR is like the accumulated, gosh, what does it stand for? It's the percentage of like growth, essentially. Compounded annual growth rate. There you go. So the space economy could be growing at like a 10% CAGR, which means that every year it's growing by 10%. So it's already over 400 billion, twice over. Or sorry, it's already over an extra, basically 40 billion twice over now, which would be pretty insane. So that would put it at like $450 billion this year. You think it's north of 700 already? I'm not sure. Yeah, I really have no idea. But the so this is government budgets. These are all the government entities working on different. There's China and Europe specific industries. I'm looking for communications, GNSS chipsets and navigation devices, satellite industry, satellite services. Oh, there we go. Television, enterprise, satellite radio, commercial remote sensing. Do they not have? I wonder where like the communications would be, because this is. See, there's launch services. So in 2022, launch services, like launching, right, was only 7 billion, right? That's kind of crazy. TV, radio, broadband, and mobile equipment. I wonder if 2022 doesn't actually have it broken out for internet connectivity. Unless I'm blind. If you guys see it, then let me know. Because satellite, TV, radio, is it broadband? Would that be considered internet connectivity? What Starlink is doing? Not actually sure. That's the United States Space Force almost has the same budget as NASA. Yeah, I don't see it specifically. Unless, what is Enterprise? Enterprise consists of transponder agreements, managed services, and mobile voice data. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, this is what I wanted to show is like, yeah, the space economy now is probably around at least $450 billion. And like I said, it's projected to grow to $1 trillion industry by 2030. So, you know, as SpaceX gets more and more launches of their belt, we have new service providers for launches coming on. We have more satellites being developed. It's kind of crazy, the growth that's happening. What is non-satellite industry? Non-satellite industry. So these are like government procurements, right? So they're not developing satellites. These are, you know, procurement offices and how much they put towards procuring systems. At least that's my understanding anyways. Like safety and security, you have space ops. This is all obviously for NASA, but yeah, because NASA's here, I could only imagine that this is like just what is like their procurement offices for. I would think that's stuff like HughesNet. Oh, maybe, yeah. It could be HughesNet. But yeah, anyways, that's what I wanted to show. Starship is going to make sats cheaper than ever too, if in theory should be cheaper than Falcon 9 if fully reused. Yeah, I mean, in theory. Don't know how long it's going to take to get there, right? That's the only thing. And there's more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to trying to reduce launch prices, and you just at some point need to have a more mass producible, cheaper option, right? Because you can then take advantage of economies of scale, which arguably SpaceX can do and is doing now with the reusable fleet. But even then, there's doesn't seem to be, I guess, enough payloads yet for. I'd see that's what I'm actually wondering, because we know SpaceX has flown a single booster as of 2 missions ago on their last Starlink mission, or was it Sphere and Punch? No, I don't think it was Sphere and Punch. I think it was the Starlink satellite before that. 22 times. So they've gotten the same booster, which probably cost on the order of like, $30 million to develop from the ground up, launched 22 times without having to do anything but refurb work on it. And so you're telling me that a SpaceX Falcon 9 still costs $67.5 million to launch? I don't know. So I don't know if there's just not enough competition to where things can be brought down. Like once New Glenn comes online and they're able to reuse, then will that cause Falcon 9 and SpaceX to get cheaper just by itself, let alone Starship? I don't know. That's the things that are kind of interesting to me. Will HLS Starship launch from Florida? That's a good question, Andy. I actually have no idea. That's a good question. Maybe because it's NASA, and NASA has their own mission control there. What about something like Firefly and Lunar Enterprise? Oh, you want a different space report. You want, we just saw it, emerging industrial base for lunar activities. Is it this infographic that we want? Yeah, I think it's this infographic that we want. So yeah, here, yeah, look at this. Announced missions. You see how it's exploded? And it's definitely growing as we push out to 2032. And this is actually from last year as well. So this is already technically outdated. But yeah, like there is a big growing lunar industry, of course, as well. I don't know if there's enough data yet because technically we only have commercial lunar payload service contracts, the LPS contracts, to really go off of. So we don't have like the same industry report as we did on the other one for launch. But yeah, there is a ton of people working on lunar activities and capabilities in that nature. Cis Lunar Space? Cis Lunar Industries? Or are you talking about, is this for Cis Lunar? Yeah, Cis Lunar Space is a volume of space beyond geo, mainly under the gravitational influence of Earth. It includes the Earth, Moon, Lagrange points, trajectories within this region, and the Moon itself. Yeah. It's a free-for-all. Yeah, it pretty much is a free-for-all. IDK, we have no idea how much refurb costs are, nor how much refurb is typically needed. Yeah, I know, FunkyBot. I really wish SpaceX was a little bit more transparent about that, because I've been saying that for probably like the last 6 years. Is like, there is obviously a crossover point, right? There's a crossover point that occurs when you have your, it's just like you own a car, right? As soon as you drive it off the lot, the value of that car depreciates. Something similar is true for SpaceX, where the refurb costs based on the value of that system staying in the fleet becomes more expensive than just building a new Falcon 9. And technically, I guess we haven't really seen that because we still have life leaders in the 20 some odd flights that are still flying. But I would love to know what that crossover point is and what that economies of scales boils down to where, hey, if you can reuse a Falcon 9 20 times, does that technically mean, you know, if you can do that consistently across the entire fleet, where you're only building one new Falcon 9, say, a year, then does that mean you can start dropping your price down to, say, 50 million instead of almost 70? I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely love to know more data points on what it actually costs SpaceX to operate their reused cycle, their reused mission. No way SpaceX is ever telling. Oh yeah, no, they're not going to tell. I just wish they were more transparent about that in like papers and stuff, because it would be awesome just from an academic perspective to actually be able to put a like parametric cost model to understand the true value between reusable systems and mass-produced expendable systems. Because there's two ways, right? There's two ways to lower launch costs. Either you develop through a whole bunch of heavy development cycles, making a really expensive upfront system, which is a reusable vehicle, right? A reusable vehicle, you have to design it to be reusable. It requires a heat shield or some other operations. You either have to save like 10% of your propellant to do a boost back burn and reentry burn and landing burn, so you get less stuff into orbit for the same cost. It requires boats and barges, and it requires cranes and things to, you know, pick it up and move it around, and it requires a lot of infrastructure, right? So you either develop a reusable system where you're not taking your cost to build a new system, but that cost is now going into all of your infrastructure to reuse that system, versus the other opportunity, which is what Astra Space wanted to do, and I guess is now starting to do in the background. They're kind of hush-hush right now because they were on the border of bankruptcy. But Astra wants to build like stupid inexpensive mass-producible systems, right? Where it's just like a tube with an avionics stack and you fill it up and you launch it. Like it was just aluminum tubes with stupid, I say stupid, I mean more like a dumb system. What's another phrase for that? Just a very simple system, right? You either simplify it and just expend it to where it costs you nothing to build and you can manufacture 1,000 of them a year, or you go the reusable route and you just reuse and cover all those infrastructure costs. There's like those two, I guess, competing trains of thought for how you reduce launch vehicle operations and costs. So I don't know. It's definitely something I'm pretty well versed in. I'd like to think, but yeah, just there's no data points on it, man. There's no data points. We would need a modern take on Soyuz to know, though. That's what Astra was trying to do, but unfortunately they ran out of money before they could have a sustaining business. And then they luckily acquired Apollo space engines, so they're providing actually transporter. The transporter missions that's going tonight, Astra Space, I think, has 13 engines on this one mission going. So like Astra's engine production for satellites is going super good, and they're trying to use that to sustain themselves to then get into their next version of their launch vehicle. If you guys don't remember Astra, right? Astra launch 0006, I think it was. Was that what it is? Yeah, LV006. You guys remember, it was this guy. It was yeah. It was this guy. This is Astra. This is their launch vehicle. Like I said, it was just like a stainless steel tube, LOX and RP1, about as simple as you get for a small launch vehicle that they wanted to mass produce for like almost nothing, so that way they could build a whole bunch of them. So they're trying to now scale this up a little bit to make a larger launch vehicle. I think it's their Astra Rocket 4, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember exactly. But they're trying to get to producing their next version, which, like I said, is operating under that thought of just building a very simple vehicle that can be mass-produced and expended. So, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. We don't, unfortunately, have the data points. You worked with Draper on a project? What kind of project? If you can, like, what was that in response to? Did you hear of Think Orbital Construction? Yeah, I used to work with them, actually. Yeah, I know Think Orbital very, very well. Yeah, they used to work in the same building I worked in as well. Yeah, Think Orbital is looking to build large structures in space. They actually have a really cool concept. So their technology, right, is actually the welder equipment to work in space. And then they want to send up these panels and then be able to robotically weld them in place and build a larger pressure vessel. So large stations and large structures of that nature. But yeah, I think Orbital's really cool. Astra had a smaller system. Don't remember if they actually working on something on the order of Soyuz. I don't think so yet. But we do have, even with Astra, something similar, right? Like arguably Rocket Labs would be a good comparison. So even though Rocket Labs isn't reusable, they are a small launch system that costs $8 million to produce. So long as Astra has a similar comparable vehicle to that and is able to get a wildly lower launch cost, which they were touting. Astra wanted to be able to send like 150 kilograms into space for like $1 million, where that would be like 1/8 the cost of Rocket Labs. Of course, that's, you know, what they're touting. They never got to that point, so we'll never know, but it's just kind of interesting to think about. We do still have some viable comparisons in terms of that train of thought, even if it's not SpaceX directly. Were they using vacuum welding, I presume? I don't remember the type, but yeah. I mean, of course, yeah, it was definitely vacuum. But I don't remember the electron beam welding, I think is what they were using. Is that what they were using? Yeah, I think their tech was electron beam welding. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sure there's a... Oh, there you go. Electron beam welding. That's what they wanted to use. Yeah, electron beam welding has been successfully tested in space. Yeah, they've already flown this vehicle in space, by the way. Not this vehicle. They've already flown their welder in space, if I'm not mistaken, and tested it, so it did work. Although it requires high vacuum environment, it can often be seen in specialized production facilities on Earth. It is arguably the best welding method with highest strength of welds and the smallest heat affected zone. It can weld 30 centimeters of steel in a single pass with energy efficiency over 90%. So yeah, that's their tech. This is where they started. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, they want to develop a whole bunch of stuff with it, which is really, really interesting. All right, chat. Well, with that, what I think I'm going to do here is cut the stream, and don't worry, I will be back. I think I'll probably start the stream up again an hour or two before the next launch, because believe it or not, we do have another launch coming up. Like I said, we have Transporter in 5 hours. So I'm probably going to take a break until like 10 or 11 p.m. Mountain Time. So it's basically 3 or 4 hours from now. And then we'll come back, we'll watch Transporter, we'll probably fly something in Kerbal Space Program beforehand, and we'll call it there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the stream. Definitely awesome to see Crew-10 successfully launch. We then saw Rocket Lab turn around and have a good launch there. But yeah, I think we're going to take a little break, cut the stream in half, and then we will bring it back. Appreciate the knowledge. Well, my pleasure, yes. Like I said, love talking at space. Do it for the job. Just, I can't get enough of it. But anyways, chat, yes, I am out. I'm out for the moment. We'll be back here in a couple of hours waiting for the next launch to happen. But thanks for the brain fodder. Much love to you. Absolutely. I hope I could provide some accurate thought, knowledge, information, brain food, brain fodder, all that jazz. But until then, chat, we'll be back in a couple of hours. And yeah, until then, go see what EJ is up to, because I think EJ is still streaming. Yeah? Is EJ still streaming? EJ is still streaming. So yeah, go see what's up with EJ, and catch you guys back here in a couple of hours. So much love to the Twitch side. Go say hi to EJ on the YouTube side. Much love for you hanging out. Hope you all enjoyed the stream as well. Like I said, we'll be back in a couple of hours, 3 hours probably. And until then, see you next time.